Chapter 1078, Real Person, Please Stand Up for Me. Chapter 1078, Chapter 381, Real Person, Please Stand Up for Me. Yun Wanshang's red lips parted slightly, inquiringly. Thank you for your concern, Elder. I encountered an assassination attempt on my way here, but it's nothing serious. I apologize for making you wait. Lu Changxing said, his voice sounding somewhat breathless. After speaking, he coughed and quickly added, Please rest assured, Elder, my current state won't affect my cultivation. Assassination? Yun Wanshang's beautiful eyes were like a clear, bottomless pond, as she looked deeply at Lu Changxing. Then, with a gentle lift of her hand, Lu Changxing's vision darkened, and he was suddenly unable to move. Damn, is this woman so cold and heartless? Lu Changxing thought to himself in silence, having come to aid her in her cultivation in such a state, yet she did not show more concern. At the very least, she could ask what kind of assassination attempt he encountered, whether it was dangerous or not. Such a heartless woman lifting her skirts. However, Lu Changxing secretly contemplated, perhaps he was overacting. After all, he didn't really go hard on himself. Just made it look like his mana was in disarray, consumed excessively, without any obvious injuries. A sweet, fragrant elixir medicine entered his mouth, followed by rustling sounds. Under the enchanting, rich fragrance, Lu Changxing's blood raced, and his body responded truthfully. Moments later, a warm, soft jade body attacked him, and he was ridden upon. Circulate your energy. A cool and pleasant voice resonated. Lu Changxing, feeling aggrieved, began to practice the sun-moon samsara technique. Afterward. Lu Changxing looked at the storage bag beside the pillow and let out a deep sigh. Damn it, one day, he would make her recognize that his junior brother's might was unrivaled. Then in a low voice, he asked, Elder, may I ask how long you plan to cultivate here? 3 months. Yun Wanshang's voice rang out, clear and cool as jewels. 3 months. Hearing this, Lu Changxing wondered whether he should continue acting. He could pretend that the assassination indicated potential danger at home, that he was worried about his household safety, and wanted to return home quickly to take charge. If the matter was resolved and he was still alive, he would come back to help her with cultivation. But wouldn't that be a bit too fake? Just then, Yun Wanshang's voice arose. What's this about an assassination? Is she willing to help after the fact? Upon hearing this, Lu Changxing felt delighted and contemplated how to phrase his story to sound more pitiful and tragic. Speak directly, or don't speak at all. Yun Wanshang's voice was cold, like a deep, tranquil pond. As a nascent soul immortal, the master of the Qingyun sect's enforcement hall, she might be naive and indecisive in matters of emotion, lacking decisiveness. But in other respects, she was no fool. She could see through Lu Changxing's minor tricks at a glance. Seeing that he obviously wanted her to know and help but deliberately shied away, waiting for her to ask proactively, she intentionally refrained from asking. Now that he hinted at her through inquiring about the duration, she didn't want to beat around the bush. Elder, it was the beast-taming Su family. Lu Changxing immediately said. Since she took the initiative to ask, it meant she was willing to help, so he would not hesitate. Regarding the matter of killing Su Gu, Lu Changxing did not consider it a big deal to reveal it to Yun Wanshang. After all, she had helped with Lady Meng's matter before, showing great regard for their relationship. Of course, it could also be for Xiao Xia's sake, or perhaps because he had once saved Xu Qingyi. The beast-taming Su family? Yun Wanshang's brows furrowed slightly. In her view, the beast-taming Su family should have no direct feud with Lu Changxing. Why would they go out of their way to assassinate Lu Changxing? That person is Su Gu, the false core patriarch of the beast-taming Su family. For some reason, he took notice of me and laid an ambush outside Bihu Lake to kill me. If it weren't for my hidden skills, Lu Changxing spoke in a low and aggrieved voice, as though telling a parent that he had been bullied at school. Su family's Su Gu. Yun Wanshang was familiar with this person. In his earlier years, he was also a genius of the Su family, with the potential for core formation. But, after his life-bound beast was killed by a true inheritor of the spirit-taming sect, his Dao foundation was damaged, and he never recovered. Later, he mysteriously broke through to false core. Due to this experience, Su Ge became profoundly affected by the harshness of the world, his psyche distorted, taking pleasure in bullying the weak and hunting talented cultivators. For someone like Lu Changxing to catch Su Ge's attention was quite normal. This person likes to hunt talented cultivators. You've been too high profile these years, and without any backing, so it's normal for him to take notice. I will have someone warn him afterward. He won't dare to move against you again. Yun Wanshang spoke calmly and coolly, her voice carrying an invisible but heart-shaking authority. In her view, Lu Changxing was also one of her own. So, if one is to beat a dog, they must watch the owner. Moreover, should anything happen to Lu Changxing, her opportunity at reaching nascent soul would be gone. This Su Ge causing trouble for Lu Changxing was simply courting death. But facing his assassination, I had no choice but to rely on a talisman formation to kill him, Lu Changxing said somewhat shyly. Yun Wanshang was startled and somewhat puzzled, wondering if she had heard wrong. Kill Su Ge? A foundation establishment cultivator defeating a false core immortal? She knew that Lu Changxing had a great fortune, a big secret, concealed his cultivation level, and his power was far beyond his peers. But she had never expected Lu Changxing to actually kill a false core immortal. And considering that Lu Changxing had only suffered excessive consumption and mana disarray without any real injury beforehand. This was astonishing, very astonishing. After a moment of silence, her voice detachedly stated, "If he is dead, then he is dead. But I heard that, years ago, when a false core patriarch of the Su family was killed by the Five Elements royal family, the family patriarch brought 2 third-order spirit beasts to the Five Elements royal family." Chapter 1079, Real Person, Please Stand Up For Me. Chapter 1079, Chapter 381, Real Person, Please Stand Up For Me. Lu Changxing spoke anxiously and fearfully. Yun Wanshang found it somewhat amusing, immediately realizing what Lu Changxing was worried about. He was afraid that the elder ancestor of the Su family might come knocking. However, in her view, Lu Changxing's worries were somewhat unnecessary. Not to mention that the idea of someone at the foundation establishment killing a false core was too bizarre. Would the Su family even suspect Lu Changxing? As a nascent soul immortal, the elder ancestor of Su family would not stoop as low as treating by Lake Mountain the way he dealt with the Five Elements royal family. He wouldn't demean himself, even the elder ancestor of the Su family would feel embarrassed. If the beast-taming Su family gives you trouble, directly send me a message. Yun Wanshang's voice was clear and crisp. Shortly afterward, a 5-colored token flew into Lu Changxing's secret chamber. This is my token, sealed with a divine skill. Should your life be in danger, you may display this token to activate the divine skill within. Upon this, Yun Wanshang realized that if Lu Changxing encountered danger outside, it would affect her too, hence she gave him the token. Not to mention, possessing this token, the core formation forces of the entire Jianghu country cultivation realm would hesitate to move against Lu Changxing. If indeed they did act, the divine skills might within the token could also give him an additional means to protect himself. Divine skills? Lu Changxing looked at the token and immediately voiced his thanks. Thank you, Senior. At this moment, any minor grievances he felt for being dominated throughout were completely dispelled. So long as the other party was willing, he'd gladly bend over backwards and use every tactic available to express his gratitude. And in this moment, Lu Changxing also realized that the character of Kaiyun True Immortal bore some similarities to his Soul Path Dreams master. A sharp tongue but a soft heart, very protective, a person who is more receptive to gentleness than coercion. Lu Changxing felt, were it not for his early core formation and obtaining a high-quality gold core, he might have actually considered going to Qingyun's sect for core formation. Unbeknownst to him, 3 months passed. During this time, Lu Changxing also worried if the beast-taming Su family would directly come to his home to cause trouble. If the sensing talisman showed the slightest activity, he would immediately return to Bai Lake Mountain with Yun Wanshang. However, these 3 months were quite peaceful, and there were no incidents at home. He was completely focused on cultivation, restoring his primordial yang, and then dual cultivating with Yun Wanshang. After completing his cultivation, Yun Wanshang transformed into a divine rainbow and left. Lu Changxing also walked out of the cave. It was pouring with a heavy rain outside. Dressed in a green robe, with a handsome and ethereal appearance, and a tall, upright stature, Lu Changxing stood in the rain, resembling a banished immortal who had accidentally wandered into the mortal world, tainted by the mundane. A gust of cold wind caressed him, and Lu Changxing extended his hand, laughing lightly. It's just a bit of wind and rain. Then whoosh, he rode on a violet flying shuttle, turning into a streak of escape light returning to Bai Lake Mountain. System, draw a prize. Lu Changxing mentally commanded. 2 months ago, the number of his descendants with martial Dao innate had reached 150, granting him the chance to draw a prize and a 3% increase in the likelihood of them having a spiritual root. Because Yun Wanshang was nearby, he hadn't used this drawing opportunity. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining a bottle of Beast Origin Elixir. Reward has been dispatched to System Space. The host can check it at any time. The golden light stopped on the Elixir Medicines category. Immediately, an Elixir Medicine bottle icon emerged from the spinning wheel, accompanied by a system notification sound. Beast Origin Elixir? An elixir for spiritual beasts to consume? Lu Changxing raised his eyebrows upon seeing this prize. Though the most direct and simple way for demon beasts to grow is to devour and refine monster cores and demon cores of the same attribute. This method is expensive and there are quite a few elixirs that can enhance the cultivation growth of demon beasts. However, with Hong Lian and Ancient Beast Taming Charm, Lu Changxing rarely crafted elixirs for demon beasts. With a slight movement of his mental spirit, information about the Beast Origin Elixir appeared in the system space. Elixir, Beast Origin Elixir, Quality, 3rd Order, Description. Enhances the advancement speed of 3rd Order demon beasts and has a purifying effect on their demon beast bloodline, purifying the bloodline effect. Lu Changxing's eyes narrowed slightly upon reading the description of the elixir. His family's demon beasts all possess extraordinary bloodlines. Even a slight purification of their bloodline effects counts as no small enhancement. However, considering that this is merely a 3rd Order elixir, and it's an entire bottle and not a single piece, Lu Changxing guessed its effects would be limited. A small gain is better than none. Lu Changxing shook his head, not overly concerned. He planned to first try the effects on the 9 Netherhound later. After all, this kind of 3rd Order elixir, under normal circumstances, requires at least a 2nd Order demon beast to consume. And besides the 9 Netherhound, the only other 2nd Order demon beast in the household was a seeking spirit mouse. He certainly wouldn't waste resources on cultivating that mouse. Upon returning home, Lu Changxing checked with his wife, Lu Miaoyun, to see if anything had happened in the household during these days. My husband, not long ago, the family patriarch of Qiu family from Thousand Extinction Mountain revealed a piece of news, stating that Jin Zan, the great elder of the Jinlong Ridge Jin family, was forming a false core in Jiuxiao Immortal City. The truth of this news isn't certain yet. I have already sent people to Jiuxiao Immortal City to verify. Lu Miaoyun gently raised her hand, pouring tea and water for Lu Changxing, sharing the news. Jin Zan. Hearing this name, Lu Changxing's eyes narrowed slightly. It has been 15 years since the incident at White Tiger Mountain. The other party had the cultivation of the 9th level of foundation establishment in his early years, so forming a false core now seemed reasonable. But previously, there had been rumors that Jin Zan was going to attempt core formation, so why did he end up forming only a false core? Was this a deliberately released false message, or was his foundation insufficient, only capable of forming a false core? Jinlong Ridge has been so quiet these years, probably waiting for Jin Zan's breakthrough. Lu Changxing pondered internally, thinking about the calmness of Jinlong Ridge over the years. He originally planned, since there was nothing urgent at home and there had been no movement from the beast-taming Su family, to take a trip out with Ling Zixiao to solve the matter regarding the spirit vein. After Yun Wanshang finished her cultivation, he could then pick the Tianyuan Supreme King Lotus, form the elemental elixir, and make a breakthrough to the golden core. But if Jin Zan really had a breakthrough, Jinlong Ridge would definitely make a big move next. Sigh, I just want to cultivate in peace. Lu Changxing sighed internally, thinking about making a trip to Jinlong Ridge to stir up some trouble. But if Jin Zan wasn't forming a false core and it turned out to be a true elixir, then it wouldn't be easy to handle. Yuner, also ask someone to keep an eye on the movements of Jinlong Ridge, and inform me immediately if there is any news. Lu Changxing spoke to his wife. Husband. Lu Miaoyan responded softly, also aware that if this Jin family patriarch really had a breakthrough, they would definitely look for trouble with her family. Chapter 1080, Condensing Elemental Elixir, Jin Family Ceremony. Chapter 1080, Chapter 382, Condensing Elemental Elixir, Jin Family Ceremony. My lord, some days ago Fairy Su came to visit, indicating that the beast-taming Su family has been paying attention to our family and investigating our situation. At this moment, Lu Miaoyan continued speaking with a tinge of worry on her face. She didn't know why her perfectly fine family had caught the attention of the beast-taming Su family. Regarding Golden Dragon Ridge, she knew full well of her husband's prowess and had not a shred of worry. But facing the colossal beast-taming Su family, her own family seemed somewhat insignificant. Su Rian. When Lu Changxing heard this, he knew that it should be related to Su Ge's affairs. He thought that Su Rian, who is often at the beast-taming Su family, finally came in handy. Did she say anything else? Lu Changxing inquired. Nothing else, just that there must have been some incident within the Su family that made them notice ours, and she told us to be careful. Lu Miaoyan shook her head as she spoke. It seems that the Su family has not suspected me directly, but due to Su Ge's mission to assassinate me, which ended with his death outside, it led the Su family to take note of by Lake Mountain. Lu Changxing silently speculated. Afterward, he picked up his cup of tea, took a light sip, and said aloud, "All right, there is no need to mind this matter." Emichim. Lu Miaoyan responded softly. After the couple chatted for a bit, Lu Changxing stood up to check on the children at home. He then used the cave mystique treasure mirror to examine their conditions. If it were not for the fact that all his wives had too low cultivation levels, Lu Changxing would have considered passing down the cave mystique treasure mirror. After busying himself, Lu Changxing returned to Changxing Hall to release the qi, blood, and magical power sealed within the 9 treasures Rui Bone, solidifying his cultivation level. Changxing Hall. Sigh. Lu Changxing opened his eyes and slowly exhaled a breath of turbid energy. Dual cultivation with Yun Wanshang yielded evident benefits for him. His cultivation level had now reached the peak of foundation establishment. Should he wish, he could attempt core formation at any moment. Now everything is ready except the spirit vein, Lu Changxing mumbled to himself. Others who have reached the peak of foundation establishment and wish to attempt core formation would fret over the coagulation crystal elixir, core formation spiritual objects, and the like. They might spend most of their lives finding just 1 or 2 core formation spiritual objects, ultimately missing the prime age for breakthrough, never reaching core formation, and some might even perish in the process. But he already had everything in abundance. Not only did he have the supreme condensation elixir, but he also had a top-tier core formation spiritual object known as the 5-element spirit fruit, which is also called the golden core fruit. Then there's the Tai Dao seed that could be considered as a top-tier core formation spiritual object, along with 4 common core formation spiritual objects. In terms of cultivation techniques, he had the Sun-Moon Samsara technique that increased the chance of successful core formation and the Yin-Yang primordial elixir method that enhanced core formation quality. Besides, he possessed several spiritual bodies. The likes of the minor Qing spiritual body and Gingjin body constitution were already impressive. But the flawless heavenly fragrance body and dragon roar physique would absolutely aid in core formation. Therefore, in such a situation, Lu Changxing did not have to worry about the success or failure of his core formation. His only concern was the quality. It was precisely for this reason that Lu Changxing knew the amount of nature's spiritual energy needed for his core formation would be immense. He had to enhance the spirit vein at home as much as possible to ensure a foolproof success. I wonder how much longer this Kaiyun True Immortal will need to cultivate. Previously, Lu Changxing was not too anxious. But now with core formation right before him and only needing to upgrade the family's spirit vein before he could concentrate on condensing the elemental elixir and attempt core formation, anxiety was creeping into his heart. Yet due to Yun Wanshang's situation, it was not convenient for him to break through to core formation just yet. After all, reaching core formation after only 50 years of cultivation would be too shocking and easy to attract unnecessary troubles. Let's focus on condensing elemental elixirs first. Without overthinking, Lu Changxing began to practice the yin-yang primordial elixir method, attempting to condense the elemental elixirs. Although this secret technique was formidable, it was very time-consuming to practice. Lu Changxing sat cross-legged, motionless, cultivating the yin-yang primordial elixir method. Within his qi ocean core, the elixir lake seemed to boil and roar, compressing all the liquid mana towards solidification. Hoo. At the same time, an expanse of nature's spiritual energy surged towards Lu Changxing, forming a small whirlpool of spiritual energy above his head. This yin-yang primordial elixir method was a simulation of foundation establishment and core formation, condensing the liquid mana to its utmost limit to form one elemental elixir after another. When it comes time to tackle core formation, all elemental elixirs would merge as one to challenge for the immortal golden core. A month later, Lu Changxing looked at a thumb-sized, black and white elemental elixir in his qi ocean core, a faint smile appearing on his face. This was the elemental elixir of the yin-yang primordial elixir method. It looked quite ordinary at first glance. But upon closer inspection, one could see streams of yin and yang intertwined, granting it an aura of profundity. This elemental elixir hasn't enhanced my foundation nor advanced my cultivation significantly. But in times of danger, I can transform the elemental elixir into mana, which can be considered as a method as well. Lu Changxing quietly felt the elemental elixir, sensing its pure and rich yin-yang magical power. He didn't ponder long before starting to condense the second elemental elixir. This yin-yang primordial elixir method considered 9 elemental elixirs as the initial achievement, and 36 as great success. Though it's possible to continue condensing more. But as the number of elemental elixirs grows, the difficulty of condensing them also increases exponentially. Because each elemental elixir doesn't exist in isolation. They need to be linked together to form one entity. Only by doing so can these elemental elixirs blend perfectly and be united during core formation. Moreover, as elemental elixirs continue to be condensed, the pressure on the physical body and dantian will also increase, becoming nearly unbearable, even potentially counterproductive. In the following days, Lu Changxing calmly cultivated the yin-yang primordial elixir method at home. With the system's spell infusion, third-order body refining, third-order divine sense, and Mount Sumer bringing nature's spiritual energy right to his doorstep, condensing elemental elixirs was exceedingly simple for him. Chapter 1081, Condensing Elemental Elixir, Jin Family Ceremony. Chapter 1081, Chapter 382, Condensing Elemental Elixir, Jin Family Ceremony. It takes almost half a month to condense an elemental elixir. For ordinary cultivators, the cultivation process probably involves lots of bumps and risks, with a high chance of failure if not cautious. However, Lu Changxing wasn't completely in closed-door cultivation. After condensing each elixir, he would step out of his cave mansion to check on his family situation. After all, he hadn't undergone serious bitter cultivation in many years, which made it hard for him to adapt to the life of secluded cultivation. Even slightly distracted, once he finished his tasks at hand, he would think of relaxing. And since he was preparing for core formation, Lu Changxing felt he should take this time to have more children. Since once core formation is achieved, the difficulty of having children would drastically increase. Of course, the children born at that time would most likely have spiritual roots and good innate talents. Even his descendants would have higher chances of inheriting spiritual roots due to his bloodline. During this period, Xianxia made a trip to Bai Lake Mountain. But for some reason, seeing Xianxia made Lu Changxing inexplicably guilty. When dual cultivating with her, he couldn't help but picture Kaiyun true immortal and thought. That day, Lu Miaoyun told Lu Changxing that Jin Zan indeed succeeded in core formation at Jiuxiao Immortal City and became a false core immortal. Are you sure it's a false core? Lu Changxing inquired. Yes, according to the information, when Jin Zan was forming his core, the spiritual energy cloud vortex formed was only 1 li wide. Many people witnessed this. It's difficult to fake, Lu Miaoyan softly said. Lu Changxing nodded. With a breakthrough in core formation, if no means are used to cover it up, the quality of the core formation can usually be judged through the spiritual energy vortex. And Jiuxiao Immortal City would absolutely not cover up any celestial phenomenon for Jin Zan. One could say, there are advantages and disadvantages to forming a core in an immortal city. The advantage being, during the process, the city offers protection, preventing robber cultivators and petty people from interfering. The disadvantage, however, is that the situation of your core formation is clearly visible to others and forces alike. Is he still in Jiuxiao Immortal City or has he returned to Golden Dragon Ridge? Lu Changxing continued to inquire. There's no information on that. Lu Miaoyan shook her head. Though Bai Lake Mountain had established a network of intelligence, it could only gather relatively simple information. Alright, Yuner, keep an eye on the situation in Golden Dragon Ridge from now on. Notify me immediately of any moves from the Jin family, Lu Changxing said with a smile, deciding to strike first. He thought to find an opportunity to eliminate the ancestor of Jin family or Jin Zan, to prevent the Jin family from causing trouble. He just wanted to focus on his cultivation and avoid entanglements with the Jin family. Rest assured, husband, Lu Miaoyan said with a sweet smile. She had already instructed her family to watch over Golden Dragon Ridge without Lu Changsheng's direction. However, Su Ge just died, and just as Jin Zan made a breakthrough, if another false core from the Jin family dies, Su family might turn their suspicion towards me. Lu Changxing paused, suddenly realizing a problem. Small as a false core is, killing normally would be simple. If he found an opportunity, one punch would be all it takes. However, given that shortly ago Su Ge came to Bai Lake Mountain to cause trouble and died inexplicably. Now if a similar incident occurred in Golden Dragon Ridge, and since there's a long-standing feud and conflicting interests with his family, it might lead Su family to suspect him. Although he has Kaiyun True Immortal as his backer, the other party wouldn't likely confront the beast-taming Su family for his sake. At most, they would issue a warning in public. I need a persona that wouldn't lead people to suspect me. Lu Changsheng's eyes slightly narrowed. He then inquired his son Lu Yun about any famous heretic cultivators currently wanted in Jianghu country. Or any notable demonic path cultivators or robber cultivators in Jin Kingdom or Yu country. Heretic cultivators, demonic path cultivators? Lu Yun was somewhat surprised, wondering why his father was asking this. He didn't ask much, and immediately went to collect and sort this information for Lu Changxing. Days later, Lu Changxing looked at the jade scroll his son had prepared. It included information about all wanted heretic and demonic cultivators in the Jianghu country cultivation realm. Nangong Mili and Meng Xiaochan were still notably listed among them. One could say, such warrants were mostly for intimidation effects. Unless the 4 great immortal sects spent a considerable cost to hire a diviner to predict the movements and set a trap for execution. Otherwise, capturing them through ordinary cultivators' reports would be highly difficult. A moment later, Lu Changxing found a suitable identity for himself. Hua Zi. This woman was originally an elder of Huan Yin's sect, but for some unknown reason, she fled the sect. When she reappeared in public eyes, she had already condensed a false core and even killed a false core true pill master from Huan Yin's sect. However, what truly caught Lu Changsheng's attention wasn't this woman named Hua Zi, but the body-refining cultivator accompanying her. This body-refining cultivator's identity wasn't detailed. It only mentioned that Hua Zi could kill a false core true pill master from Huan Yin's sect and retreat safely, all thanks to this nascent soul body cultivator. Body refinement, bewitching technique, isn't that a perfect match? Lu Changxing thought of his Thousand Faces puppet fox. As long as he acted together with the Thousand Faces puppet fox, presumably, no one would suspect him. As for why these two would appear in Qingyun region, why they would kill Jin Zan or the ancestor of Jin family, is that important? They are already considered heretic cultivators. Being in a bad mood and killing a false core true pill master is quite normal, right? However, it might not be easy to wait for them to leave home. Lu Changxing thought of another issue. Staking out is a technical task, highly testing one's patience. Before, Su Gu had spent months waiting outside by Lake Mountain for him. Lu Changxing had never done such strenuous work before. Forget it, as long as the Jin family makes a move, they will naturally come out. Chapter 1082, Condensing Elemental Elixir, Jin Family Ceremony. Chapter 1082, Chapter 382, Condensing Elemental Elixir, Jin Family Ceremony. Lu Changxing was not overly worried. Now that Jin Zan has achieved the false core breakthrough, as long as he stabilizes his realm, he will undoubtedly take significant action. When that time comes, opportunities will surely arise for himself. A month later, Lu Changxing received an invitation. Half a year later, Great Elder Jin Zan of Golden Dragon Ridge is to hold a core formation ceremony, inviting families and powers in the vicinity to attend the ceremony. TSKS, a core formation ceremony. Lu Changxing looked at the invitation, clucking his tongue in reflection. Although in the eyes of high-rank cultivators, a false core immortal barely counts as a true nascent soul immortal, for the surrounding family forces, a false core immortal is already a towering existence. Once the news of this ceremony spreads, it's estimated that the surrounding family powers will all be terrified. Sister Miaoga, let's go together when the time comes. Lu Changxing discussed this event with his wife, Lu Miaoga. They planned to attend the core formation ceremony together and gauge the Jin family's attitude, and also look for an opportunity to take down Jin Zan, or perhaps the ancestor of Jin family. All right. Lu Miaoga, holding their son Lu Qingxian, responded in a gentle voice. Although their son is young, his personality is very similar to their daughter Lu Qingzu's during her childhood, very quiet. Their daughter Lu Qingqi is more like Lu Qingshan, much more mischievous. Several days later, Lu Yuanzhong, Bai Yunyang, and family patriarchs from Tai Mulam Mo family, Shishui Ning family and other families, visited Bihu Mountain to consult Lu Changsheng's opinion on the Jin family's core formation ceremony. These families were part of a cooperative alliance. Even though more than 10 years have passed since the incident at White Tiger Mountain. But they all understood that now Jin Zan has achieved the false core breakthrough, he would surely start expanding his territory and likely target White Tiger Mountain. If Golden Dragon Ridge takes over White Tiger Mountain, Tai Mulam and Shishui Ning family would definitely be anxious and fearful. There's no need to worry. My wife Lu Miaoga and I have both broken through to the mid-stage of foundation establishment. With our dual cultivation technique, even if we face a false core immortal, we will have the strength to fight. Lu Changxing, in a blue magical robe, with a face gentle as jade, said steadily. Hiss. 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 The family patriarchs in the Great Hall, hearing this, were all deeply shocked and gasped in astonishment. Although they had guessed as much when Lu Changxing and Lu Miaoga defeated Jin Zan back then, now that Lu Changxing had confirmed it, they were still startled. After all, being able to fight a false core at the mid-stage of foundation establishment. What if they both later break through to the late stage of foundation establishment? Lu Changxing and Lu Miaoga, at such a young age, achieving the mid-stage of foundation establishment means they have a high chance of advancing to the late stage in the future. For a moment, everyone's gaze towards Lu Changxing and Lu Miaoga was filled with a slight reverence. After the meeting, the families bid their farewells and left. Lu Yuanzhong, however, did not directly return but spoke to Lu Changxing about a matter. The third cultivator of foundation establishment on Qingzhou Mountain had already achieved breakthrough, only it had not been disclosed publicly. Therefore, Lu Yuanzhong harbored the intent of acquiring a second spirit land. However, he inclined towards letting Lu Qinghua lead a branch to a remote area to look for an unowned spirit land to start from scratch. Because there are only a few ways to acquire a spirit land. Either pioneer it, buy it, or snatch it. Certainly, they couldn't afford to buy. As for snatching, Qingzhou Mountain's current strength was feasible. But Qingzhou Mountain's relationship with Bai Lake Mountain was too close, almost like branches of the same tree. Any major move by Qingzhou Mountain would surely affect Bai Lake Mountain and raise suspicions of involvement. And since Bai Lake Mountain was already flourishing and under intense scrutiny by many powers, it's easy for both families to attract trouble if Jianghu Mountain engaged in such activities now. Pioneering, Lu Changsheng, hearing this, narrowed his eyes. He had researched spirit lands in depth in his early years, knowing that for most families, pioneering was the only choice. Uncle, Tsinghua has just broken through Foundation establishment. You need not rush this. You can wait until he reaches the third level of Foundation establishment or the mid-stage before considering this matter. Lu Changsheng thus said. Pioneering was not easy, even for a Foundation establishment cultivator. There could be dangers. I just had this idea, and was asking for your advice. Lu Yuanzhong said so. In fact, he had another reason not unveiled. His clan was now too closely connected with Bai Lake Mountain. Should Bai Lake Mountain face any disaster one day, Jianghu Mountain would also be inevitably subject to the risk of annihilation. With Lu Tsinghua establishing a branch in a remote area to pioneer a new site, they could preserve a line of descent in case of such events. However, these words he naturally wouldn't disclose, only preparing for the worst-case scenario. I do not know much about this, uncle. You should make a decision among yourselves. Lu Changsheng said softly, not intending to interfere too much with Jianghu Mountain's matters. 3 months later, Yun Wanshang sent another message, asking Lu Changsheng to help cultivate. Lu Changsheng immediately sank all his elemental elixirs into the elixir lake. As long as Yun Wanshang didn't inspect his Qi ocean core with her divine sense, she would not notice these elemental elixirs. During this cultivation session, Lu Changsheng asked Yun Wanshang approximately how long the cultivation would take. Yun Wanshang indicated it would still be 3 months. Once this cultivation session ends, she should conclude with one more session. So soon? Lu Changsheng was inwardly surprised. His yin-yang energies indeed had the effect of nurturing golden cores, but the effect was very minor. To advance the true elixir to golden core, or a third-rank golden core to second rank, constant effort was needed. However, he immediately understood the underlying reason. Based on the understanding from the soul path dreams about the spirit phoenix marrow body, this spiritual body could nurture and strengthen the spirit-nurturing energy through dual cultivation. While his yin-yang energies were not spirit-nurturing energy, they were closely related and presumably could be nurtured and strengthened within the counterpart's body for nourishing the golden core. Probably during this past half year, the counterpart wasn't just allowing him to rest, but also consolidating her own state. Understanding this, Lu Changsheng also felt slightly pleased. He really worried that Yun Wanshang might drag out the cultivation for 3 or 5 years, which would truly be exhausting. However, after 2 months into this trip for cultivation due to the Jin family's core formation celebration, Lu Changsheng had to return early without completing the 3 months. On this matter, Yun Wanshang didn't say much, but merely uttered a clear and calm yes, then turned into a rainbow and left. Let's go, Sister Miaoga. After returning to Bai Lake Mountain, and when the day of the Jin family's core formation ceremony arrived, Lu Changsheng and his wife Lu Miaoga set out for Golden Dragon Ridge to attend Jin Zan's core formation ceremony. Chapter 1083, Duel, Defeat Jin Zan Again. Chapter 1083, Chapter 383, Duel, Defeat Jin Zan Again. Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoga did not head directly to Golden Dragon Ridge. Instead, they first came to White Tiger Mountain to inquire about the recent situation. Because of Jin Zan's breakthrough to false core, White Tiger Mountain has been in a semi-closed state for the past half year. The puppet business either requires escort guards for delivery or cooperation from allies who come in person, which is very cautious and prudent. Father, Aunt Lu Qingsong and Lu Xianji report the affairs of the White Tiger Mountain to their family. After roughly hearing the report, Lu Changsheng sighed in his heart when he saw that his son Lu Xianji was still at the 6th level energy refinement cultivation level. This son is a 9th grade spiritual root and busy with affairs. Even with high rank breakthrough elixirs, it is not easy to break through to the energy refinement late stage. After feeding a beast origin elixir to the 9 Netherhound, Lu Changsheng piloted the flying boat and headed to Golden Dragon Ridge with Lu Miaoga. Golden Dragon Ridge is a majestic and sprawling range of mountains. From a high vantage point, it looks like a huge azure dragon is coiling. Under the cover of the Jin family's mountain protection array, the mountain range glows with a faint golden hue of spiritual light, appearing from a distance like a fierce and powerful golden dragon. At this moment, Golden Dragon Ridge is bustling with activity. Many cultivators are coming and going at the mountain gate. As soon as the spirit boat piloted by Lu Changxing stopped outside Golden Dragon Ridge's mountain gate, a Foundation establishment elder of the Jin family came forward to welcome them. Mountain Lord Lu, Lady Lu, it is an honor to have you here. Please come inside. Lu Changxing nodded slightly, took out a brocade box, and said aloud, "Congratulations to the great elder of the Jin family, Jin Zan, on the joy of core formation." Since they came to attend the ceremony, naturally, they had to bring a gift. Otherwise, it would seem too petty on their part. Mountain Lord Lu, you are too kind. The Foundation establishment elder opened the brocade box and took a brief look, his pupils slightly contracting. After whispering to an usher beside him, he invited the two to enter Golden Dragon Ridge. Master of Bihu Mountain, Mountain Lord Lu and the Patriarch's lady have arrived. Presenting a second-tier top-level spirit talisman. The usher immediately announced loudly. Mountain Lord Lu Changxing from Bihu Mountain, then this must be his wife Lu Miaoga, right? They really are a pair of divine immortals. It is said that the Lu couple cultivates a dual cultivation technique, and their combat strength is astonishing. I wonder how strong they are now. I heard that it was the Lu couple who defeated Ancestor Jin, who is holding the core formation ceremony, and thus made a name for themselves with one battle. Unexpected that they also came to attend the ceremony. After all, the two families haven't completely fallen out. It's normal for them to attend the ceremony. Not only that, but I also heard that the great elder of the Jin family originally intended to push for true elixir, but due to defeat at the hands of the Lu couple and preparing core formation spiritual object as an apology, he had to settle for a false core. Shoo, is that true? If so, don't the two families have a huge grudge? If that's the case, there will be a good show to watch. Many people glanced covertly at Lu Changxing and Lu Miaoga, whispering among themselves. Led by the Jin family, Lu Changxing and Lu Miaoga arrived at a mountain villa. The place was already filled with guests who had arrived for the ceremony, with many familiar faces among them. As they saw Lu Changxing and Lu Miaoga arriving, they all greeted them, clasping their fists and nodding. Lu Changxing and Lu Miaoga were invited into the main hall of the mountain villa to take their seats. Inside the hall, ancestor of the Jin family and the newly advanced false core Patriarch Jin Zan were seated in the most honored positions. Upon seeing them, they politely said, "Haha, Mountain Lord Lu, Lady Lu, it's been a long time. Ancestor Jin, Elder Jin, congratulations." Lu Changxing congratulated with a smile. Although he was thinking of finding an opportunity to kill the two, he was still polite on the surface. Congratulations, Elder Jin, on the joy of core formation. Lu Miaoga also congratulated in a follow-up manner. Thanks to Mountain Lord Lu and Lady Lu, without that battle back then, Jin might not have been able to understand my true heart and succeed in forming a core. Jin Zan said with a smile that did not quite reach his eyes. Hiss. Other cultivators in the hall were startled upon hearing this, their expressions revealing their doubt. They didn't expect that the great elder of the Jin family was in such a confrontational mood from the start. It seemed the grudge between the two families was hard to bury. The main thing is that Elder Jin has an exceptional talent, great determination, and strong will, Lu Changxing said, pretending not to catch the underlying meaning in Jin Zan's words, and continued to smile. In his eyes, Jin Zan was already a dead man. As the saying goes, the dead should be respected, so why bother with such trivialities? After the two took their seats, the ceremony continued. This process was nothing more than drinking and chatting, discussing some matters within the cultivation world, news, or talking about business cooperation. The Jin family took the opportunity to showcase their own strength and talk about the family's general plans and such nonsensical matters. Just when the drinking was nearly over, Jin Zan, holding a wine cup, came to Lu Changxing's table and spoke, "Mountain Lord Lu, Lady Lu, I have always wanted to have another opportunity to learn from you after my defeat at your hands back then. Now that there is a chance, I wonder if the two of you could fulfill this long-cherished wish of mine." Jin Zan's hair and beard were like thick ink, his face commanding respect, and though his voice was calm and polite, it was filled with a provocative undertone. Anyone could hear that he was challenging them, seeking to regain his honor. TSK, the great elder of Jin family really isn't afraid of losing face. Just after breaking through to false core, he's challenging two foundation establishment cultivators. Not only does Jin Zan want to regain lost honor, but he also wants to test the strength of Mountain Lord Lu and his wife. It seems that the Jin family intends to make a move against Bihu Mountain, and is using this opportunity to test their strength. After all, when the Lu couple joined forces back in the day, they were almost on par with someone at the foundation establishment peak. Now more than a decade later, their strength is unknown. Most of the family patriarchs present had a look of watching a show on their faces. Although most of them did not want to see the rise of the Jin family, neither did they wish for Bihu Mountain's rise. They were quite happy to see Golden Dragon Ridge and Bihu Mountain entangled in conflict. Ideally, they would fight to the death. Chapter 1084, Gamble Fight, Defeat Jin Zan again. Chapter 1084, Chapter 383, Gamble Fight, Defeat Jin Zan again. Lu Yuanzhong, Bai Yunyang, and some other foundation establishment cultivators on good terms with Bai Lake Mountain had grave expressions, looking at Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoge with some concern. Although Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoge had previously stated their strength now enabled them to battle a false core immortal, they were still inevitably worried in their hearts. Elder Jin has now achieved the status of a false core immortal. How could my wife and I possibly be your opponents? Lu Changsheng did not expect the other party to pull such a move, and he immediately voiced his refusal. Such a matter would be thankless, no matter win or lose. It could bring trouble to his own family. Lu Mountain Lord is truly too modest. The dual cultivation technique that you and Lady Lu possess is indeed a rarity in Jin's life, and I have always wanted to experience it once more. Of course, Jin will not let Lu Mountain Lord and Lady Lu make a move for nothing. Win or lose, Jin is willing to present a copper mine from the Black Cloud Mountain Range as a gift. Jin Zan continued to speak. Upon these words, there was a stir among everyone present. No one expected Jin Zan to be so generous. A copper mine, no matter the circumstances, was worth tens of thousands of spirit stones. Spending tens of thousands of spirit stones just to cross swords with Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoge? However, the people in the hall were not fools. They understood that the more Jin Zan did this, the more determined he was to take action against Bai Lake Mountain. If Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoge's strength was not as expected, they would find an excuse to make a move against Bai Lake Mountain. A copper mine, Lu Changsheng hesitated in his heart and still refused aloud. Lu, someone only wishes to care for himself and study the arts of talisman making and alchemy, not skilled in fighting techniques. He decided in his heart that after the Jin family celebration, he would squat at Golden Dragon Ridge for 3 months. It seems that Lu Mountain Lord looks down upon the small gains from the copper mine. Jin Zan relentlessly continued, since that's the case, let's up the ante. If Jin loses, Lu Mountain Lord can propose any condition. But if Jin wins, Lu Mountain Lord just needs to cede White Tiger Mountain willingly. White Tiger Mountain's Zhao family and my Jin family are long-standing allies. When the Zhao family once invited Jin for assistance, I was unable to contribute, leading to their destruction, which is a regret in my heart. I have always wanted to return White Tiger Mountain to the Zhao family, so I asked Lu Mountain Lord not to refuse. Jin Zan's smile gradually faded from his face, staring straight at Lu Changsheng with a calm and indifferent tone that was domineering and forceful. If this were in the past, he would never have wasted so much time with Lu Changsheng. However, Bai Lake Mountain not only had the Lu couple but also had Lu Qingshan. This Lu Qingshan was too monstrous. After learning that Lu Qingshan had asked for a sword from Heavenly Sword Sect and was invincible among his peers, they had sent people to Yu country to understand the situation about Lu Qingshan. Knowing that Lu Qingshan had gained the first place in the Jianghu Sect sword trial during his Qi refinement realm and was promoted to true inheritor. Afterward, he conquered the 5 sects competition in Yu country. went on to challenge various immortal sects, overpowering his peers, earning the title Little Sword Immortal. Such a prodigious talent, as long as he does not die young, is destined to achieve core formation. Because of Lu Qingshan, they wanted to take action against By Lake Mountain but were cautious in their hearts, not daring to go too far. So, they thought of taking back White Tiger Mountain in this manner, without spilling blood and with full justification. The villain shows his true colors when he's desperate. Lu Changxing coldly sneered to himself. Now that many of his family's businesses had moved to White Tiger Mountain, he naturally would not give it up willingly. However, seeing the other party's stance, he understood that if he refused again, they would take the opportunity to make a move on White Tiger Mountain. White Tiger Mountain's Zhao family is a vassal to my By Lake Mountain, and they are living well on White Tiger Mountain right now, so where does this talk of destruction come from? However, since Elder Jean has said so much, it would be ungrateful of Lu someone to continue refusing. As long as Elder Jean can provide a corresponding stake, my wife and I are willing to accept this wager. Lu Changxing was no longer so polite, speaking indifferently. Since the other party insisted on fighting, fine. But the benefits must be substantial. He happened to seize this opportunity to reveal his false core combat power along with Lu Miaoge, deterring the surrounding families and then focusing on cultivating for core formation. He actually agreed. Does Lu Changxing truly have confidence in defeating Jin Zan? Jin Zan just recently broke through to false core and doesn't possess magical treasures or divine skills. Perhaps Lu Changxing has seen through this point. Even without divine skills or magical treasures, a false core immortal is not comparable to a foundation establishment cultivator. The cultivators present heard Lu Changxing speak in such a way, all looking towards him and Lu Miaoge, wondering where his confidence came from. I have a second-order spirit land under the name of Golden Dragon Ridge, called Qinia Mountain, as a stake. How about it? Jin Zan, seeing Lu Changxing agree, spoke out directly. Others feared the strength of the Lu couple, believing that together they were on par with a false core immortal, maybe even able to kill one. But in his heart, he was very clear that this was exactly the rumor that his family had spread. Even if the Lu couple had both made breakthroughs to the mid-stage of foundation establishment and had greatly increased their strength, he still did not believe they would be his match. After all, foundation establishment and false core are entirely different levels. It's not until one breaks through to false core that one understands the chasm-like gap between them. Qinia Mountain. Hearing this, Lu Changxing took out a jade slip from his storage bag to review. This was a power distribution map of the Qingyun region. When he saw the location of Qinia Mountain, Lu Changxing shook his head. This Qinia Mountain is too far from my By Lake Mountain. I remember that Monkey Hill's Tao family is a vassal to your Golden Dragon Ridge, right? If Elder Jean is willing to stake Monkey Hill as the bet, and then add 30,000 spirit stones, someone is willing to accept this gamble. Lu Changxing looked at the power distribution map in his hand and said after a moment of contemplation. Chapter 1085, Gamble Fight, Defeat Jin Zan Again. Chapter 1085, Chapter 383, Gamble Fight, Defeat Jin Zan Again. Monkey Hill was not far from White Tiger Mountain, where the family ran a spiritual wine business and planted spirit fruit trees all over the mountains. If it could be brought under our own name, it would also boost our family's spiritual wine business. Upon hearing this, the face of an elder not far away stiffened. He didn't expect Lu Changxing's bet with Jin Zan to drag his own family into this affair. Very well, very well, very well. Jin Zan was so infuriated by Lu Changxing's actions that he laughed out of anger. The bet hasn't even started, and you're already choosing a spirit land? Do you really think you can beat me? Jin Zan said coldly, all right, since Lu Mountain Lord is willing to accept, this elder can make the decision. If you win, Monkey Hill will belong to your By Lake Mountain, and they'll give you 30,000 spirit stones. After speaking, he turned to the Tao-named foundation establishment cultivator nearby and said, Daoist Tao, rest assured, if this old one truly loses, I will compensate you with Qinia Mountain. I naturally trust Elder Jean. The Tao-named foundation establishment cultivator replied with a salute. Although he believed in Jin Zan's victory, his heart was still filled with bitterness. Monkey Hill had been run by his family for nearly 100 years, and now it was being bet away just like that. If Jianghu lost and they really had to move, it would take time, money, and effort to re-establish the family's business, the mountain protection array, and so forth, which would severely damage their vital energy. But since Jianghu, the false core patriarch, had spoken, he had no room to refuse. Fine, then let's set up a spiritual contract. Lu Changxing spoke up. Even in such public presence, the Jin family couldn't possibly go back on their word. But who knows if the Jin family would play tricks at the time. For instance, sabotaging the mountain protection array, the spirit vein, and the ample spirit fruits on Monkey Hill. Jianghu, seeing Lu Changxing even wanting to sign a spiritual contract, was utterly furious. Suppressing the rage in his heart, he signed the spiritual contract with Lu Changxing. Then he said coldly, "Lu Mountain Lord, Lady Lu, I happen to have a barren mountain at Golden Dragon Ridge that can serve as the battleground, please proceed." Now that his purpose was achieved, he was too lazy to be polite and did not wish to idle talk with Lu Changxing. "If any of you have leisure, feel free to come and watch the battle, to bear witness," Jianghu told the cultivators in the hall. Back then at White Tiger Mountain, he had been beaten by Lu Changxing and Lu Miaoga and fled in a sorry state, losing face. Today, he wanted to regain his honor in front of a public audience, to utterly discredit Lu Changxing and Lu Miaoga. Of course. All the cultivators in the hall appeared eager to watch the excitement. They wanted to see the strength of Jianghu, the newly promoted false core immortal. They also wanted to see the current combat prowess of Lu Changxing and Lu Miaoga. All right. Lu Changxing gave Lu Yuanzhong and others a reassuring look, then holding his wife's hand, went out with Jianghu and others. The cultivators outside the villa, seeing the Foundation establishment ancestors walking out of the Great Hall, were clueless about what was happening. However, as several Foundation establishment ancestors took their disciples to watch the battle, many people followed to join in the excitement. But they could only control their magic artifacts to chase after them miserably, completely unable to keep up with the Foundation establishment escape light. Moments later, atop a barren mountain in Golden Dragon Ridge. "Lu Mountain Lord, Lady Lu, please proceed." Jianghu, dressed in brocade and jade, stood with an air of authority and confidence, his hands folded behind his back, exuding an imposing and confident demeanor. "All right." Lu Changxing and Lu Miaoga exchanged looks, then interlocked their fingers as mana began to circulate within them. Due to the practice of the Sun-Moon Samsara technique, their mana was now even more harmonious, as if they were one entity. As their magic power flowed, Lu Miaoga raised the Tai Chi talisman. This spiritual artifact had been reforged by Lu Changxing and had been upgraded to a top-grade spiritual tool, significantly increasing its power. The Tai Chi talisman burst forth with dazzling golden light, strands of yin-yang energies swirling within it, transforming into a small golden sword that zoomed towards Jianghu. This strike, it's already not weaker than a late-stage Foundation establishment. The Lu couple, indeed, live up to their reputation. Among the spectating cultivators, although there were no false core immortals, there were quite a few late-stage Foundation establishment cultivators who could see the depth of Lu Changxing's strike. Clang! Jianghu did not dodge or flinch when faced with the Tai Chi talisman's sword assault, and a series of fierce and violent golden protective auras surged around him. This protective aura was different from the ordinary protective aura, filled with aggressiveness, directly stopping the Tai Chi talisman's sword outside. Clang, 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 the Tai Chi talisman's sword continuously chopped on the golden light barrier, sending sparks flying, but unable to penetrate Jianghu's golden protection. Hiss, is this the power of a false core immortal? Even if it's just a false core, there's a huge chasm between it and Foundation establishment. The Foundation establishment cultivators at the scene looked at Jianghu, who was full of golden light and a domineering presence, with eyes filled with longing and awe. For most people present, achieving false core in this lifetime would be considered the greatest pursuit of life. As for forming a true elixir, that was simply too far and uncertain. "Lu Mountain Lord, Lady Lu, if you don't use your full strength, you won't stand a chance." Jin Zan looked at Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoga somewhat mockingly, then let out a loud roar. Roar, roar, roar. Instantly, dragon-like roars erupted from within him. A spiritual artifact that resembled both a spear and a sword, enveloped in layers of golden aura, appeared, emitting strong mana waves. Jin Zan's life-bound spiritual artifact, the Golden Dragon Seal. This spiritual artifact already possesses the aura of magical treasures. It can be considered a quasi-magical treasure. No wonder Jin Zan is so confident. It turns out his life-bound spiritual artifact has already been nurtured into a quasi-magical treasure. The Lu couple are already unable to break Jin Zan's body-protecting magic barrier. It's going to be difficult to withstand his offense. The Lu couple still have their final tactic, the talisman formation. Now, let's see if Lu Changsheng's talisman formation can suppress this great elder of the Jin family. The spectating cultivators looked at the formidable golden dragon seal with a dragon's shadow wrapped around it, all of them with grave expressions. At this moment, a false core immortal's cultivation could not make any further progress. Chapter 1086, Gamble Fight, Defeat Jin Zan again. _4 Chapter 1086, Chapter 383, Gamble Fight, Defeat Jin Zan again. _4 Hence, the major factors determining the combat power of a false core immortal are magical treasures and divine skills. Golden Dragon Annihilation / Jin Zan, holding an artifact in both hands, shouted loudly. The flood dragon's shadow above his head almost materialized, filling heaven and earth with a sharp and domineering aura, as if it meant to annihilate all beings. Cultivators spectating around felt this terrifying sharp killing intent as if falling into an ice cellar. Immediately, some cultivators with weaker cultivation levels repeatedly moved back to avoid being injured by the residual energy. Standing outside the battlefield was already so threatening, not to mention facing Jin Zan directly like Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoga. Buzz! Lu Miaoga promptly performed a gesture incantation with one hand, summoning her yin-yang energies bottle. The yin-yang energies bottle instantly formed a layer of azure light, in which a yin-yang fish slowly swam, mysteriously captivating. Boom! 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 The flood dragon roared, golden light flickering fiercely and wildly. The flow of the yin and yang energies rendered the azure light barrier continuously torn under the terrible onslaught of the flood dragon. However, this light screen was much tougher than the typical shields of Foundation establishment cultivators. Moreover, it possessed an endlessly growing momentum, which, even if momentarily torn and damaged, could immediately recover. Indeed, the Lu couple is extraordinary, actually capable of contending against a false core immortal. But just like this, the two of them have no chance of defeating Jin Zan. Seeing the confrontation, all cultivators looked solemn. Although Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoga appeared to be at a disadvantage now. They knew, if it were themselves facing Jin Zan, facing such an attack, they would likely have already been defeated. Wind-fire formation. At this moment, Lu Changsheng employed his famous technique, the talisman formation. After all, merely relying on the couple's combat abilities to suppress Jin Zan, who was a false core immortal, was indeed a bit bold. It still had to depend on this talisman formation to bluff their way through. However, being able to win Hoer Mountain and 30,000 spirit stones, this talisman formation was worth it. Whiz whiz whiz, one after another, spirit talismans streamed out from Lu Changsheng's sleeves, causing everyone to look on in shock. Because such methods as talisman formation were mostly heard of and never seen by most people. And most people who use talismans on a daily basis would at most use 2 or 3. They had never seen such a sight. So this is a talisman formation. Hundreds of talismans, refining talismans into a formation, truly astonishing. No wonder Lu Changsheng was able to defeat 3 Foundation establishment cultivators from the Yu family shortly after breaking through to Foundation establishment. With such techniques and enough talismans, even an initial stage of Foundation establishment could defeat someone in the late stage of Foundation establishment. But this talisman formation really burns through money. This brief moment must be costing tens of thousands of spirit stones, right? Indeed, probably Lu Changsheng was reluctant to agree to a contest earlier, also because it's too costly. Who could withstand such expenses? Spectating cultivators were surprised and emotional upon seeing this scene. Even the ancestor of the Jin family showed a trace of solemnity on his face upon seeing these continuously emerging talismans. Talisman formation. Jin Zan saw these talismans, and with disdain, snorted coldly. He had been defeated by Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoga in the past due to this talisman formation technique. Now daring to challenge Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoga, he naturally came prepared. Chaos bead. Jin Zan let out a long howl, and a fist-sized red bead appeared above his head. Buzz. The bead circled around, bursting forth with layers of twilight. As the talisman formation had just taken shape and the magic power mechanism started to merge, in this moment it was instantly disrupted and scattered by Jin Zan's mana. This is an exotic treasure that can disrupt the magic power mechanism, specifically countering talisman formations and battle formations. Someone spotted this chaos bead and exclaimed loudly. No wonder Jin Zan is so confident. With this chaos bead, Lu Changsheng's talisman formation can hardly form properly, and even if it forms, its power will be significantly weakened. It seems the Lu couple is going to suffer a setback. Many cultivators felt regret seeing this scene. They still wanted to witness the power of Lu Changsheng's talisman formation, eventually resulting in a Pyrrhic victory situation. This, Lu Yuanzhong and others looked worried upon seeing this. If today Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoga were defeated by Jin Zan, not only would they lose White Tiger Mountain, but they would also likely face relentless oppression from the Jin family. Chaos bead, quite interesting. Lu Changsheng saw this red bead, chuckled lightly. With one hand performing a gesture incantation, he shouted lowly, 99 Mysterious True Strategy, arise. The opponent indeed had an exotic treasure that disrupted the talisman formation, but he naturally had measures to suppress the talisman formation. Buzz, buzz, buzz. A black iron sphere with flowing dark light appeared in Lu Changsheng's hands, shooting out numerous black iron talismans. Due to limited resources and divine sense earlier, Lu Changsheng had only forged 18,099 mysterious true talismans. Now his divine sense was comparable to a nascent soul immortal, and he didn't have a handy magical treasure, so naturally, he crafted this complete 99 mysterious true strategy. Whiz whiz whiz, in an instant, every 4,500 mysterious true talismans formed a pillar of heaven, a total of 8 pillars, suppressing in all 8 directions. The talisman formation, which had its magic power mechanism disrupted by the chaos bead, was instantly reformed and arranged in all 4 directions. Once the wind-fire formation was complete, violent winds immediately swept through, and fierce flames rolled, covering a part of the heavens, enveloping Jin Zan within. Huh! Jin Zan, startled by this scene, roared out loud, Chaos bead, break! Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The chaos bead above his head erupted like a volcano, stirring up layers of twilight, sweeping in all directions. Then, the golden dragon square heaven stakes in his hands burst forth with an endless intimidating golden luster, like a vast ocean spreading, with a mighty and overwhelming force, aiming to break through the talisman formation. However, under the suppression of 64,099 mysterious true talismans, the talisman formation held steady like a mountain, with fierce winds and raging flames bombarding Jin Zan, engulfing him entirely. But Jin Zan was indeed worthy of being a false core immortal. Chapter 1087, Gamble Fight, Defeat Jin Zan again. _5 Chapter 1087, Chapter 383, Gamble Fight, Defeat Jin Zan again. _5 Confronting the tumultuous onslaught, his entire being was shrouded in golden light, ferocious and powerful. Swinging the golden dragon square mallet in hand, it seemed as though flood dragons were roaring ferociously, indestructible, tearing the heavens asunder. Upon seeing this, Lu Miaoga immediately switched from defense to attack. The yin and yang energies surged towards the sky, spiraling above the talisman formation, as if suppressing the golden mallet. The Tai Chi talisman transformed into a small sword and pierced into the center of the talisman formation. Hiss, what is this? It actually stabilized the talisman formation. I've heard that a talisman cultivator's magic artifact is called a talismanic weapon. This must be one of them. It seems that Lu Changxing really has obtained some talismanic inheritance, becoming a talisman cultivator. Not only refining multiple talismans into a formation, but also controlling such a complex talismanic weapon, his divine sense must be as strong as someone at the peak of foundation establishment, right? Is this the might of a talisman formation? Absolutely terrifying. Spectating cultivators looked on in amazement, their hearts full of surprise. Today's magical duel, in just a moment of exchange, was filled with suspense, gripping everyone's heart. Boom! At that moment, a ground-shaking sound erupted from the windfire formation. The golden mallet wielder's hair whipped wildly, his body burst with golden light, and his aura climbed intensely, seemingly about to collapse the heavens, as he bombarded the talisman formation. This image was incredibly breathtaking. All the cultivators present were terrified, feeling the horror of the clash between the two sides. Energy-refining cultivators who had come to watch the battle could now only sense the ocean-like terrifying might from afar, no longer able to clearly see the contest. Hiss. The golden mallet is using some kind of secret technique. He's prepared to fight with his life. Someone with the pupil's skill noticed something was off with the golden mallet within the talisman formation and couldn't help but exclaimed aloud. At this revelation, many showed surprised expressions. The monks of the Jin family, especially Ancestor Jin, looked uneasy. He never expected this supposedly certain bet to turn out like this. This made him look towards Lu Changxing and Lu Miaoge, who were clasped together like divine lovers, with a hint of dread in his eyes. If the golden mallet was no match for them, it meant that even a direct confrontation would likely not favor him. To kill these two, one must wait until they are alone, and absolutely cannot let Lu Changxing engage the talisman formation. Ancestor Jin's eyes narrowed slightly, pondering in his heart. It was now impossible to confront by Lake Mountain straight on. The only option was to look for an opportunity to strike at Lu Changxing and Lu Miaoge in the dark. Elder Jin, if you admit defeat now, it's still not too late. At this moment, Lu Changxing spoke towards the golden mallet in the talisman formation. Although he could take this opportunity to severely injure or even suppress the golden mallet completely, doing so would bring about many unnecessary troubles. Kill. The golden mallet ignored him, like a crazed demon, his eyes wild and domineering, soul shaking, and he continued to roar angrily. He could not accept this outcome. He had formed a false core and had spent a fortune at Jianghu Immortal City to bid on a chaos bead that could disturb mana mechanisms and formations, yet still, he was no match for Lu Changxing and Lu Miaoge. Lu Changxing remained calm and indifferent, beginning to detonate the talisman formation. Boom! 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 With every explosion of a talisman, everyone present trembled in fear. The talisman formation was far too terrifying. Anyone trapped within would be chilled to the bone. Under several assaults, the golden mallet's protective aura was blasted open, his body scorched, and then he spat out fresh blood, his face pale and breath feeble. Lu Mountain Lord, please hold back. This battle is lost by our Jin family, Ancestor Jin said, seeing the situation. Continuing the fight would mean the golden mallet would be severely injured if not killed. And he could see that something was wrong with the golden mallet, who had turned manic and lost coherence. Am not willing to accept this. Seeing Lu Changxing stop, the golden mallet roared and spat out another mouthful of blood, fainting. Today was supposed to be the joyous celebration of his core formation, expected to be splendid. He had hoped to take this opportunity to wash away previous humiliation and reclaim White Tiger Mountain. But instead, he was defeated by Lu Changxing and Lu Miaoge, in front of such a large crowd. It likely wouldn't be long before this affair spread throughout the entire Qingyun region, even across the Jianghu country cultivation realm. Everyone would know that he, Jin's on the false core Immortal, had challenged 2 foundation establishment cultivators and lost. We've won. The Lu couple has actually won. This, although they relied on the talisman formation, such combat strength is astounding. If there were enough talismans, I suspect Lu Changxing could directly suppress Jin Zan. By Lake Mountain, Lu Changxing, Lu Miaoge. Seeing Jin Zan pass out, everyone's expressions were shocked, incredulous, and in utter disbelief at Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoge. No one had expected Jin Zan to lose so miserably, so completely. Especially Lu Yuanzhong and Bai Yunyang. Both were completely speechless at this moment, feeling as if they were in a dream. They had both broken through foundation establishment earlier than Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoge. But now, while they were still loitering at the initial stage of foundation establishment, Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoge had grown to be able to suppress a true pill master. Ancestor Jin, such a fight is hard to pull back from for someone like me, please forgive me. Lu Changsheng gathered the 99 mysterious true strategy, looking greatly spent, and gave a slight bow to Ancestor Jin. Fighting technique is blind. Mountain Lord Lu need not take it to heart. As for the bet, the issues with Monkey Hill and the Spirit Stones, this old man will make arrangements for Mountain Lord Lu. Ancestor Jin took a deep breath and said with a solemn voice to Lu Changsheng. He then checked on Jin Zan, saw that it was only injuries and blood loss causing fainting, and had people take Jin Zan back to rest. Now that the battle has concluded, everyone please return to Golden Dragon Villa. Chapter 1088, Gamble Fight, Defeat Jin Zan again. _6 Chapter 1088, Chapter 383, Gamble Fight, Defeat Jin Zan again. _6 Ancestor of Jin family spoke up loudly to the spectators, indicating he was somewhat bored with the core formation ceremony. Everyone returned to Golden Dragon Villa filled with emotion. Lu Mountain Lord, Lady Lu's divine power is remarkable. I have long heard of Lu Mountain Lord's fame with talisman formation, and seeing it today, it indeed lives up to the reputation. I wonder if Lu Mountain Lord is considering taking disciples, my daughter. At this time, several foundation establishment cultivators stepped forward, cozying up to Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoge, their expressions and words filled with respect and awe. Before this, although Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoge were quite famous, many knew that fame often involved a lot of fluff. Seeing the divine skills of Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoge today truly shocked and awed them. It probably won't take long for today's events to spread throughout the entire Qingyun region and into the cultivation world of Jiang country. The reputation of the couple from Blue Lake Mountain Lu family will rise yet another level. And the Blue Lake Mountain Lu family will be treated as a false core family, rather than just a common foundation establishment family. However, among these people, one had a rigid and ugly expression. It was the family patriarch from Monkey Mountain of the Tao family. Because of Jin Zan's defeat, it was tantamount to his Monkey Mountain being lost. Due to the duel between Lu Changsheng and Jin Zan, the core formation celebration at Golden Dragon Ridge was wrapped up prematurely. After all, with such an incident, not only did Jin Zan, the great elder of the Jin family, lose face, but the entire Golden Dragon Ridge lost its dignity. If it weren't for having reservations, the ancestor of Jin family even thought about killing Lu Changsheng right there at Golden Dragon Ridge. However, he still adhered to the bet and gave 30,000 spirit stones to Lu Changsheng, noting that moving from Monkey Mountain would require 3 months. Lu Changsheng did not say much upon hearing this. He went to White Tiger Mountain and handed this matter over to his son, Lu Pingan, to take over Monkey Mountain. Won a Monkey Mountain from the duel? Lu Pingan, Lu Qingsong, and others were stunned upon hearing that their father and aunt had gone to the Jin family ceremony and had actually won a spirit land. You know, the Tao family from Monkey Mountain had 2 foundation establishment cultivators stationed there. However, after hearing about the matter, they too were filled with emotion and excitement. The family not only procured an additional spirit vein at Monkey Mountain, but their father's and aunt's powers were now comparable to that of a false core immortal. This is interesting. I remember originally those 3 foundation establishment cultivators who came to our White Tiger Mountain to cause trouble, led by Tao Jizhong, an elder from Dragon Light Commerce Chamber, is actually the foundation establishment ancestor from this Monkey Mountain, and now this family spirit land has become ours. At this moment, Lu Qingsong spoke out with a laugh. Oh? Is that so? Lu Changsheng raised his eyebrow. He simply thought Monkey Mountain was geographically advantageous, being close to White Tiger Mountain. He planned it for a second-order middle-grade spirit vein, suitable for the spiritual wine business, and did not remember the matter with Dragon Light Commerce Chamber. However, he didn't pay much attention, and after explaining the situation to his children, he and Lu Miaoge returned to Blue Lake Mountain. Days later, news of Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoge defeating Jin Zan gradually fermented and spread. Suppressing a false core immortal, really? Even if this great elder of the Jin family has just broken through to false core, lacking magical treasures and divine skills, he's not someone a Foundation establishment cultivator can contend with. In my early years, I heard of the deeds of this couple from Lu, thought it was exaggerated. With this couple stationed at Blue Lake Mountain, it's already equivalent to a false core family. Still, it cannot be compared. The couple always needs someone in closed-door cultivation, they can't always be out together. Regardless, Golden Dragon Ridge has really lost face this time. At this time, the topic continued fermenting, causing countless people to discuss fervently, and even many loose cultivators came to join Blue Lake Mountain. And some female cultivators, thinking of getting close to Lu ancestor who loved to marry and take concubines, wondered if they would be thrown out considering his wife, Lu Miaoge, and their ulterior motives. Not only that, this incident also sparked a wave of discussions at Blue Lake Mountain, and many children began to take an interest in the talisman path. Chapter 1089, Dragon Blood Tree, Monkey Mountain. Chapter 1089, Chapter 384, Dragon Blood Tree, Monkey Mountain. Yu Country, Jinyang Sect. Tianyuan Peak. Inside a great hall. Little Zhu, if the Foundation establishment doesn't go smoothly, don't force it. Just give up and start over. Don't hurt yourself. As for the Foundation establishment elixir and Foundation establishment spiritual objects, brother has plenty. If it's not enough, he'll go to the Fire Luo sect later and set up a competition platform. Lu Qingshan advised aloud, taking out porcelain vials and brocade boxes from his storage bag. After many years of cultivation, Lu Qingzhu has finally reached the perfection of qi refinement and is ready to attempt Foundation establishment. Her master, Tianyuan True Immortal, had prepared a set of Foundation establishment resources for her. However, in Lu Qingshan's view, one set of Foundation establishment resources certainly wasn't enough. He had been saving Foundation establishment resources for his sister early on. By now, he had saved up 6 Foundation establishment elixirs and 15 Foundation establishment spiritual objects. Brother. Lu Qingzhu gave her brother a disapproving look on hearing these words. She hadn't even started Foundation establishment yet, and her brother was already saying such things. However, she also knew that her brother was worried she might force herself to break through, resulting in a backlash failure that could damage her vital energy. Although with Foundation establishment elixirs, failing the breakthrough wouldn't be dangerous. But if she failed during the process of condensing her Dao Foundation, it could still cause some damage, requiring a long time to recover. All right, my little Zhu will definitely succeed. Seeing his sister's indignant expression, Lu Qingshan pinched her fair cheeks and said with a chuckle. He then began to guide Lu Qingzhu in her breakthrough, acting as her protector. Brother, when did you save up so many Foundation establishment elixirs and spiritual objects? Lu Qingzhu looked at the porcelain vials and brocade boxes in front of her, feeling moved, and asked softly. It wasn't much effort, I just won a Foundation establishment elixir from Gu Yunyang the other day when he challenged me to a duel. The last time I went to the Primordial sect, I won 3 Foundation establishment spiritual objects in the competition arena, and during the trip to Ancient Moon Immortal City, Lu Qingshan, with eyebrows like swords and eyes like stars, proudly and carelessly said, so little Zhu, you don't need to feel pressured. For your brother, such Foundation establishment resources are really just a trifle. Emichim. Lu Qingzhu softly responded but said nothing else. She naturally did not believe the resources were that easy to come by. Foundation establishment elixirs and spiritual objects were extremely rare, often priceless. Especially since the Foundation establishment spiritual objects prepared by her brother were very suitable for her, clearly requiring a lot of time and effort. How could it be as carefree as Lu Qingshan had said? But she knew that her brother said this so she wouldn't feel pressured. Once little Zhu breaks through Foundation establishment, we will go home for a visit. Dad, Mom, Auntie, and Grandfather will certainly be delighted to see us both having established our foundations. Lu Qingshan ruffled his sister's hair, smiling as he spoke. But his heart weighed down slightly when he mentioned grandfather. Both siblings were not young anymore. Their grandfather, Lu Yuanding, was merely an energy-refining cultivator. Even though he had taken lifespan extension pills, his lifespan was limited. This trip back home could very well be the last time they saw their grandfather. Emichim. Lu Qingzhu also had some longing for her family. Not long ago, their parents had sent a letter, saying there were new additions to the family, 2 siblings named Lu Qingqi and Lu Qingxian. Immediately, Lu Qingzhu swallowed a foundation establishment elixir and began her attempt at foundation establishment. Congratulations to the host for 70 offspring successfully channeling qi into the body, embarking on the immortal path, and gaining the bloodline effect, offspring's comprehension enhanced by 3%, with 1 lucky draw opportunity. That day, a system notification rang in Lu Changsheng's mind. 70 at last, Lu Changsheng paused in thought. Nearly 10 years had passed since 50 of his children had channeled qi into their bodies. This was a drawback of selective breeding for better offspring. While the quality of his children improved, the rate of increase slowed down. I wonder if this increase in comprehension will have any noticeable effect. Lu Changsheng looked at the bloodline buff, musing internally. The system had previously granted a 3% increase in comprehension. But he had not noticed any significant improvement in his children's comprehension. Without much further thought, Lu Changsheng silently wished, drawl, ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the dragon blood tree. Reward has been delivered to the system space, the host can check it at any time. A dragon blood tree? A heaven and earth spiritual plant? Lu Changsheng looked at the reward he received, pleasantly surprised. He was always eager for more heaven and earth spiritual plants. After all, with the heavenly longevity technique, for each heaven and earth spiritual plant he could allow a concubine or child in his family to cultivate this technique and solve any talent issues. His mental spirit stirred slightly as he looked at the description of the dragon blood tree in the system space. Spirit plant, dragon blood tree, grade, 3rd rank, description, originally a 1,000-year-old iron tree, transformed by the nourishment of a flood dragon's flesh and blood that fell beside it. The timber can be used to forge magical treasures. No special effects. Lu Changsheng read about the dragon blood tree. The luminous treasure tree and the 5 elements fruit tree he had received before produced luminous sweet dew and 5 elements spirit fruits, respectively. This dragon blood tree was merely a pure treasure tree. Whom shall I give it to? Naturally, Lu Changsheng would not use the dragon blood tree to forge magical treasures. He pondered over whom to let cultivate the heavenly longevity technique with this treasure tree. There were too many concubines and children in the family who needed the heavenly longevity technique. Even with the system, it was impossible to take care of them all. After a moment, Lu Changsheng decided to give the dragon blood tree to his son, Lu Xianji. Lu Xianji possessed a 9th grade spiritual root. Without great fortune, he had no chance of foundation establishment in this lifetime. If he could cultivate the heavenly longevity technique, it would be best. However, Lu Changsheng decided to give the dragon blood tree to this son not solely because of Lu Xianzi's spiritual root and age. Chapter 1090, Dragon Blood Tree, Monkey Mountain. Chapter 1090, Chapter 384, Dragon Blood Tree, Monkey Mountain. Also considered the contribution to the family. This son, albeit quite mediocre, is diligent and earnest in his dealings and conduct. Once told to learn puppetry technique, he devoted himself entirely to it. After entrusting him with the puppet workshop, he dedicated all his time and energy to it. If not for the welfare currently available at Bai Lake Mountain, as the person in charge of the puppet workshop and a Lu family elder, it would be impossible for Lu Xianji to still be at the 6th level energy refinement with the abundance of elixir medicine's resources. Sigh. Lu Changsheng sighed softly when he thought of this son. Lu Xianji was his first child with a spiritual root, and he initially paid much attention to him. But as the number of wives and children increased, his attention dwindled. And Lu Xianji himself was of an introverted and somber demeanor, always burying himself in work, never boasting about his achievements, barely noticeable within the family. Now that Pingon is almost taking over Monkey Child Mountain, it's a good time to make a visit. Lu Changxing, not being overly sentimental, informed Lu Miaoyun and then set off for White Tiger Mountain. He was planning to give the Dragon Blood Tree and Heavenly Longevity Technique to his son, Lu Xianji. This Dragon Blood Tree, originally an iron tree, was quite suitable planted on White Tiger Mountain. In the Grand Hall of White Tiger Mountain, Heavenly Longevity Technique, refinement of a lifespan spiritual plant. After hearing his father's words, Lu Xianji was silent for a moment before bowing deeply to Lu Changxing. Thank you, father. Birth, aging, sickness, and death are the natural course of life. I have long let go of any thoughts about foundation establishment, and am quite content with life as it is. Although cultivating this heavenly longevity technique could allow one to break through to foundation establishment and even aim for core formation, for me to achieve it alone and ultimately watch Tiaoer and Xian Yu and others pass away one by one, I truly cannot accept it, so, I will not cultivate this heavenly longevity technique. Dressed in a wide blue robe, mature and steady-faced, Lu Xianji said so. The heavenly longevity technique, though excellent, ultimately only confines one to a place, to watch as wives, children, and even siblings pass away one by one. He is unwilling to endure that. Lu Changxing was momentarily stunned, not expecting his son to verbally refuse. However, he could understand Lu Xianzi's thoughts. Cultivation is indeed wonderful but also exceedingly harsh. Successful cultivation means watching close friends and relatives die off. This is why many cultivators choose to live alone, unencumbered. He had worried about this matter in his early years, but as time passed, he gradually became indifferent knowing that birth, aging, sickness, and death are the natural courses of human life. Alright, if you change your mind, you can always talk to me. Lu Changxing did not try to persuade or force him. His son was already grown up with his own ideas. Thank you, father. A faint smile appeared on the mature and steady face of Lu Xianji, knowing of his father's partiality towards him. His wife often mentioned that his father favored him, yet being a reserved person, he didn't know how to seek further affection from him. He was very much aware of these dynamics. But he was someone content with his lot. Knowing that with his own spiritual root, talent, and capabilities, if not for being born in the Lu family and valued by his father's favor, his life would far be worse off in any other family force. Thus, he always harbored a grateful heart, easily satisfied. I plan to go and check out Monkey Child Mountain, and you should also go get acquainted with the situation. Lu Changxing looked at his son and spoke. Yes, father. Lu Xianji nodded in response. Soon the two made their way to Monkey Child Mountain. The journey from White Tiger Mountain to Monkey Child Mountain wasn't far, about 300 li. In less than an hour, Lu Changxing and Lu Xianji arrived at Monkey Child Mountain. Is this Monkey Child Mountain? Lu Changxing looked ahead at Monkey Child Mountain, noting its resemblance to Jianghu Mountain. But instead of the abundant green bamboo of Jianghu Mountain, Monkey Child Mountain was covered with fruit trees. The spirit boat landed at the mountain gate. Greetings to Lu Ancestor. Greetings to the Mountain Lord. At this moment, at the gate of Monkey Child Mountain, besides Tao family cultivators, several White Tiger Mountain cultivators were present. Lu Changxing nodded his head, and with Lu Xianji entered Monkey Child Mountain, scrutinizing the situation inside. After a while, Lu Pingon, hearing of Lu Changxing's arrival, hurried over. Father, Xianji. Lu Pingon, dressed in silver armor, with a tall and imposing stature, conveyed a sense of solemnity and majesty. Pingon, what's the current situation at Monkey Child Mountain? How is the Tao family's relocation going? Lu Changxing asked his son. Father, the Tao family has almost finished moving. It should be completely done in about half a month. But there are a few matters that need your decision. Lu Pingon spoke. Lu Changxing asked, Oh, what's the matter? According to the agreement you made with the Jin family initially, when Monkey Child Mountain was handed over to us, we were not to damage the formation, spirit vein, buildings, nor the spirit fields and fruit trees. However, it didn't say we can't pick the fruits on the trees. The Tao family is willing to compromise on ordinary fruits, but there are 12 second-rank spirit peach trees on the main vein of the mountain. These spirit peach trees will be mature in about half a year, and the Tao family has expressed that they either pick these peaches now or wait until they mature and take 70% of them. Moreover, with the Tao family leaving, we temporarily do not have enough farmers or spiritual plant masters to take care of the fruit trees. Lu Pingon scratched his head, somewhat troubled. He did not really enjoy interacting and handling such matters. Second-rank spirit peach trees? Lu Changsheng's eyebrows twitched, and he spoke, "I'll go have a look." The trio then went to the main vein of Monkey Child Mountain. Lu Ancestor. Seeing Lu Changsheng, the Tao family patriarch bowed with some unease. Chapter 1091, Dragon Blood Tree, Monkey Mountain. Chapter 1091, Chapter 384, Dragon Blood Tree, Monkey Mountain. After all, handing over one's own spirit land so readily, one could hardly maintain a good countenance. Tao Laozu. Lu Changsheng gave a slight nod, having seen the other party before at Golden Dragon Ridge. However, only a few months had passed, and the others seemed to have aged considerably. I heard from my son that you wish to wait for the spiritual peach trees to mature and then split the produce 30-70. Lu Changsheng, in a green magical robe, stood tall and straight. Indeed, according to the agreement made with Lu Ancestor and Jin Laozu that day, it was said not to destroy the fruit trees in the mountain, but it was not said that the fruits couldn't be taken. The common spiritual fruit trees in the mountain, my Tao family is willing to give all to Lu Ancestor. But these 12 spiritual peach trees, my Tao family has spent a lot of time and effort cultivating them, and it will only be half a year until maturity. We do not wish to pick them prematurely and waste them. The Tao family patriarch said very politely. After all, if Lu Changsheng were to be unreasonable, issuing a challenge by saying, "Try and pick them," they would indeed not dare to pick, and at most, they could go to the Jin family to make a complaint. But it's highly unlikely that the Jin family would come to blows with Lu Changsheng over such a matter. Even if they did intervene, they would want to take the majority of the spiritual peaches. A split of 70-30 is too much, but I have a few conditions. If Tao Laozu is willing, I may even give you all these spiritual peaches. Lu Changsheng stated directly. What conditions? Asked the Tao family patriarch. I need your Tao family to arrange some fruit farmers to take care of the trees in the mountain for 1 year. And about the cultivation methods of the fruit trees in the mountain, the planting techniques, and your Tao family's winemaking heritage. Lu Changsheng spoke. At the time he gambled on Monkey Hill, he was not too clear about the specific circumstances and hadn't considered much. Now he's realized that taking over Monkey Hill requires a transition. Just as when he took over by Lake Mountain. Lu Ancestor's conditions, might they be a bit too harsh? The Tao family patriarch's face looked somewhat distressed. Already extremely frustrated with having surrendered the spirit land so readily, continuing to help with the care and also surrendering the cultivation methods for fruit trees and wine brewing techniques, researched generation after generation, was akin to throwing away the roots of the Tao family. Rest assured, I, Lu Changsheng, am not such a domineering person. If you can provide these heritages, I can also offer you a corresponding second-tier wine brewing heritage. Or another second-rank talisman path heritage, second-tier pill path heritage. Lu, someone has them all. Lu Changsheng said with a calm expression. Although he's a second-tier top-level wine master, having the Tao family's existing wine brewing heritage would mean that he only needs to understand the general process, then he could analyze and optimize it, without the need to spend too much time in this area. The cultivation methods for fruit trees were the same. Although he could ask Zhao Qingqing to study these fruit trees, it would still take too much time and effort. Rather, it's better to directly acquire the Tao family's heritage in this area. This way, his own family can then look to optimize and improve the situation, making it simpler and saving time. This matter is of great importance, I need to consider it. The Tao family patriarch's face changed from cloudy to sunny as he spoke. Now that they no longer have Monkey Hill, the value of these fruit trees' cultivation methods and wine brewing techniques isn't as great. It's just that these belong to the family's ancestral knowledge and efforts, and they are reluctant to give it up so easily. but Lu Changsheng's words were tempting. Okay, Tao Laozu can take your time to consider it. If you decide, just inform me. And although I did not agree with Jin Zan about picking the fruits, since it was said not to damage the trees in the mountain, naturally picking the fruits also constitutes damage, so Tao Laozu should not deceive yourself. Lu Changsheng gave the Tao family patriarch a deep look, with a calm and indifferent voice. Under his gaze, the Tao family patriarch's heart gave a fierce thump. Recalling the day at Golden Dragon Ridge, when Lu Changsheng deployed the talisman formation to suppress Jin Zan, the Tao family patriarch replied with a somewhat bitter voice, "Tao, someone understands." Lu Changsheng did not go on speaking, took his two sons for inspection around Monkey Hill, feeling that the spirit land here was not bad. The only thing was the name Monkey Hill did not sound very good. He was considering whether to change the name when the time comes. Chapter 1092, The Children Break Through to Foundation Establishment, Spiritual Embryo of Heaven and Earth. Chapter 1092, Chapter 385, The Children Break Through to Foundation Establishment, Spiritual Embryo of Heaven and Earth. Golden Dragon Ridge. Lu Changsheng has gone to Monkey Hill alone. Upon hearing the report from below, the ancestor of Jin family's eyes narrowed slightly, cold and profound. Since the core formation ceremony, after witnessing Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoge join forces to suppress Jin Zan, a killing intent had taken root in his heart, contemplating the elimination of the two in secret. Otherwise, allowing the pair to continue growing was far too terrifying. Now learning that Lu Changsheng had ventured out alone, without Lu Miaoge, a surge of murderous intent welled up in his heart. This lad has obtained the legacy of the talisman path. The third-rank talisman used by Ling Zixiao back then could very likely be related to him. If this lad still has third-rank talismans in his possession, the ancestor of Jin family's hands clenched into fists unconsciously, his mind wavering indecisively. Given the relationship between their families, if Lu Changsheng were to die mysteriously near Monkey Hill, many would suspect the Jin family. If this led to a complete fallout with Bihu Mountain, it wouldn't bode well for the Jin family either. However, what worried him most was whether he could kill Lu Changsheng in one blow. After all, the rapid rise of Lu Changsheng over the past decades and his myriad methods demanded utmost caution. And the ancestor had witnessed the power of Lu Changsheng's talisman formation himself. He knew if he failed to kill Lu Changsheng immediately, it would become extremely difficult to do so afterward. This lad so brazenly heads to Monkey Hill, perhaps it's to signal to me that he's venturing out alone, awaiting my move. After much contemplation, the ancestor of Jin family's murderous gleam subsided, and he decided to hold back. He would wait until he could procure something that could counter talisman formations or ensure a fatal blow, not allowing Lu Changsheng to escape, and then take action. Let this lad be arrogant for a few more days. The expression of the ancestor of Jin family was icy cold. At this moment, Lu Changsheng was unaware of the ancestor of Jin family's intent to harm him. After patrolling Monkey Hill with Lu Xianji and returning to White Tiger Mountain, he disguised himself and, along with Thousand Faces Puppet Fox, lay in wait outside Golden Dragon Ridge. Although Jin Zan had been severely injured by him previously, and it was unlikely the Jin family would stir trouble soon, based on his understanding of the Jin family and Jin Zan, it was impossible for them to let the matter lie. Thus, to play it safe, he decided to kill one of the two Jin family members with a false core. However, after half a month of surveillance, Lu Changsheng gave up. It was too exhausting. Constantly on alert, any passerby would require confirmation through divine sense to ensure they were not the ancestor of Jin family or Jin Zan in disguise. Let's just wait for the Jin family to make a move. Lu Changsheng sighed. As the Lu ancestor, he had never done anything this taxing in his entire cultivation journey. Moreover, with Jin Zan recently wounded by him, it was unlikely he would venture out anytime soon. He would probably recuperate at home, practice divine skills, and nourish his magical treasures. And since the ancestor of Jin family seldom left home, Lu Changsheng had no clue when the ancestor would be out and about, making it uncertain how long he would have to wait. Bihu Mountain. What? Azure Phoenix Immortal has gone missing. Upon returning to the Lu family mansion, Lu Changsheng received shocking news from his wife during their casual conversation. Yes, everyone suspected Azure Phoenix Immortal didn't appear because of serious injuries. But after more than a year, many powers have probed Azure Phoenix Immortal City, and White Peak Immortal, who had previously challenged Azure Phoenix Immortal, also made a public challenge, but Azure Phoenix Immortal never showed up. So now, rumors are spreading that Azure Phoenix Immortal has most likely left Jianghu country to seize an opportunity for a breakthrough to the nascent soul in a 4th-rank immortal city. Lu Miaoyun spoke softly. Leaving Jianghu country to seek a breakthrough to nascent soul opportunity in a 4th-rank immortal city, Lu Changxing felt that this was highly likely. In earlier years, he had discussed with Li Feiyu and knew that Azure Phoenix Immortal was already several hundred years old. If she did not attempt a nascent soul breakthrough, her condition might decline, affecting her chances of success. Staying in Azure Phoenix Immortal City, Azure Phoenix Immortal would have no chance of breaking through to nascent soul. Only by leaving Azure Phoenix Immortal City and heading to a 4th-rank immortal city to find the right opportunity, could she hope to break through to nascent soul. Azure Phoenix Immortal has built the Azure Phoenix Immortal City. Over the hundreds of years, the accumulated wealth is vast. Moreover, with her strength, if she is willing to join a power, surely quite a few nascent soul-level powers would extend an olive branch, offering her access to a 4th-order spirit vein, Lu Changxing stated. The Heavenly Sword sect was unwilling to see Azure Phoenix Immortal achieve a nascent soul breakthrough. But other nascent soul-level powers in various cultivation nations seemed willing to make such offers. What is the current situation of Azure Phoenix Immortal City? Lu Changxing continued to inquire. Without Azure Phoenix Immortal to anchor it, the Immortal City might very likely change hands. He had previously sent a letter to Azure Phoenix Immortal City to inquire about the situation with Li Feiyu. Li Feiyu just indicated that he would take extra care and told Lu Changxing to rest easy, advising him to avoid Azure Phoenix Immortal City if possible in the meantime. Now, it's just that the rumors are escalating, causing panic in Azure Phoenix Immortal City. Many loose cultivators are leaving, and no power has made a move against Azure Phoenix Immortal City yet. But if things continue as they are, with Azure Phoenix Immortal remaining absent, it's estimated that in a few years at most, powers will act against Azure Phoenix Immortal City. Lu Miaoyun said softly, her tone laced with melancholy. Since her childhood, she had heard of the great name of Azure Phoenix Immortal City, a haven for loose cultivators. She had even once dreamed of visiting this immortal city. But now, she was hearing that this immortal city might soon decline and perish. Also, there are rumors that many loose cultivators have flowed into the marketplace of spirit taming sect due to the instability in Azure Phoenix Immortal City, but with too many newcomers and competition for resources, incidents of robbery have become frequent, affecting the order within the region boundary of spirit taming sect, Lu Miaoyun continued. Although the situation with Azure Phoenix Immortal City didn't affect the Qinyan sect, the neighboring spirit taming sect had already been impacted. Sigh, there's never been true peace in the cultivation world. Chapter 1093, Children Breakthrough Foundation Establishment, Spiritual Embryo of Heaven and Earth. Chapter 1093, Chapter 385, Children Breakthrough Foundation Establishment, Spiritual Embryo of Heaven and Earth. Lu Changxing shook his head and sighed. In the Jianghu country cultivation realm, the spirit taming sect, due to its proximity to the myriad beasts mountain range, has always had the worst public order and the most robber cultivators. Now, under the influence of Azure Phoenix Immortal City, the public order has worsened, and it is expected that many cultivators will again flee to Qinyan sect, Wuxia sect, and Heavenly Sword sect. Time flies, and in the blink of an eye, half a year has passed. During these days, Lu Changxing has been cultivating the Yin-Yang primordial elixir method at home and has condensed 6 elemental elixirs. For the matter of Flower Fruit Mountain, the Tao family ultimately agreed to provide methods for nurturing and planting fruit trees, as well as the family's fruit wine brewing techniques. However, they demanded 1 portion of the second-order top-grade talisman path heritage and 3 second-order top-grade talismans. Faced with this demand, Lu Changxing naturally did not agree and only gave 1 second-order top-grade talisman. They really think second-order top-grade talismans grow on trees. He subsequently sent a message to Zhao Qingqing, asking her to help look after the spiritual fruit trees on Flower Fruit Mountain. to see if there is any need for optimization or improvement in the planting and cultivation process. Also, Lu Changxing renamed Monkey Mountain to Flower Fruit Mountain. Many family forces are reluctant to change names because it's very inconvenient having to mention the old name after the change, as no one would recognize the new one. It might take years, even decades, for people to remember a new name. But Lu Changxing didn't care. He didn't need people to remember the new name of Flower Fruit Mountain right now. Father, this day, Lu Qingxian came to find Lu Changxing. He expressed that he was ready and could attempt foundation establishment at any time. Alright, since you're prepared, let's start now. Lu Changxing noticed his son's spiritual power was well-rounded and satisfactory, his mindset stable and calm, not arrogant or impulsive, and nodded. He did not let his son break through to the foundation establishment in Mount Sumeru Cave Heaven. It wasn't that he didn't want to tell him about the Mount Sumeru Cave Heaven. Simply because over the years, nobody in the Lu family had achieved foundation establishment openly in public. Since Lu Qingxian, as a widely recognized talent with a 4th-grade spiritual root and born of a concubine. Thus, Lu Changxing thought it might be good for him to break through at Baiyun Peak, creating some commotion to set an example for his family and inspire them. As for attracting trouble by having one more foundation establishment cultivator in the family, Lu Changxing wasn't too worried. After all, compared to defeating Jin Zan with Lu Miaoge, this matter was less conspicuous. Yes, father. Lu Qingxian, seeing how casual his father was about his foundation establishment, felt somewhat dejected. But thinking about his father's accomplishments, such a trivial foundation establishment would naturally not be deemed important by him. Don't pressure yourself too much, foundation establishment is just the beginning of cultivation. Lu Changxing patted his son's shoulder and said softly. Yes, father. Lu Qingxian, resolved, nodded in response. Then, the two went to the back mountain, where Lu Qingxian sat cross-legged and solemnly began operating the Thunder Fire 9 Arts cultivation technique, preparing to strike at foundation establishment. Lu Changxing acted as his protector nearby. Being a father, he wasn't usually very attentive, so naturally, he stayed nearby to guard during such an occasion. Moreover, foundation establishment was prone to errors despite prior instructions on important points. Being beside him, he could intervene and provide guidance the moment something went awry to prevent accidents. This was the benefit of having a master and elder to protect. After a long while, Lu Qingxian felt his essence, qi, and spirit were filled to the brim, in peak condition, and without further hesitation, he ingested the Supreme Foundation Establishment Elixir. Boom! His Qi ocean core roared and surged with spiritual power, spreading through his limbs and filling his entire body, creating a tidal wave of spiritual pressure that caused the nature's spiritual energy to violently rush towards him. It's starting, Lu Changxing watched quietly as his son began his foundation establishment. His son was only 35 years old, practicing an off-mainstream level cultivation technique, Thunder Fire 9 Arts, with a foundation establishment elixir, so the 3 obstacles of foundation establishment shouldn't pose any problem. Moreover, considering his son had undergone too little tempering and his mental fortitude might be lacking, Lu Changxing also prepared a divine sense foundation establishment object for him to ensure a flawless attempt. Just then, a system notification suddenly sounded in Lu Changxing's mind, accompanied by a surge of rich and pure mana. Congratulations, host, 5 of your progeny have achieved the foundation establishment stage. Bloodline effect. Progeny's spiritual body inheritance rate increased by 1%, receive 1 advanced draw opportunity. Huh? Lu Changxing was startled and a bit puzzled. What's going on? Lu Qingxian had just started, how did he already achieve the foundation establishment stage? But Lu Changxing instantly realized, it must be his other children reaching foundation establishment. Who is it? At this moment, Lu Changxing genuinely did not know which child had achieved foundation establishment. After all, he has 7 children at the 9th level of energy refinement, and 4 of them were outside. After a while, Lu Changxing knew which child had achieved it. Name, Lu Qingzhu, lifespan, 41 of 231, talent, 7th grade spiritual root, cultivation level, 1st layer foundation establishment, talent, talisman making compatibility, 35%, little Zhu has achieved foundation establishment. Seeing that it was his daughter Lu Qingzhu who had achieved foundation establishment, a gentle and relieved smile appeared in Lu Changsheng's eyes. His daughter merely possessed a 7th grade spiritual root, making foundation establishment quite challenging. Now seeing his daughter having succeeded, Lu Changsheng was very happy and wished to inform his wife, Lu Miaoge, immediately. Only, such a matter couldn't really be explained to his wife. I wonder if Qingzhu and little Zhu will come back later. Lu Changsheng felt a bit longing. He had always been very fond of these two children. Yet, because they went to Jianyang sect, they had only gathered twice in over 30 years. Actually, regarding Lu Qingshan, Lu Changsheng felt okay. He thought this son's personality made him suitable for striving on his own outside. Chapter 1094, The Children's Breakthrough in Foundation Establishment, Spiritual Embryo of Heaven and Earth. Chapter 1094, Chapter 385, The Children's Breakthrough in Foundation Establishment, Spiritual Embryo of Heaven and Earth. He has always been deeply concerned about his daughter, Lu Qingzhu, worried that she might be bullied outside and hoped she could stay safely at home. But with the siblings depending on each other in the outside world, it was impossible to let only Lu Qingshan stay out while bringing Lu Qingzhu back home. However, with Qingshan there, little Zhu shouldn't be bullied. Lu Changsheng muttered to himself with a soft sigh, not overly sentimental, and continued to focus on Lu Qingxian before him. Time passed by slowly. Lu Qingxian had completed the 3 stages of foundation establishment. In the Qi ocean core within his dantian, the misty liquid mana spread out, beginning to condense into a Tao foundation. The 3 stages of foundation establishment, apart from the divine sense stage which was somewhat lacking, the other 2 stages are quite perfect. Lu Changsheng's expression was calm, knowing that his son should be able to condense a flawless foundation base. A flawless foundation base was already quite impressive. To achieve a perfect foundation base, one would need not only to improve one's temperament further but also to use countless heavenly and earthly treasures to refine the physical body, mana, and foundation before there was some hope. Of course, if Lu Changsheng was willing, giving him the 5-element spirit fruit to consume might result in a perfect foundation base. But the 5-element spirit fruit tree in the system space wasn't planted yet, and Lu Changsheng was not yet indulgent to that extent. As the 3rd stage of foundation establishment broke, the nature's spiritual energy from the mountain behind suddenly sped up, beginning to surge wildly, forming a spiritual energy whirlpool several zhang in diameter in the sky. What's happening? This is a spiritual energy whirlpool. Someone is undergoing foundation establishment. Foundation establishment, who within the family is attempting it? Is it Qingxian or Wangshu, or which auntie? The anomaly of the nature's spiritual energy immediately drew the attention of many people around Bai Lake Mountain to the back of Baiyun Peak, stirring up a flurry of envious, longing, and excited discussions. After all, the family was welcoming another foundation establishment great cultivator, a great event. Especially since not long ago, Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoge won Monkey Mountain from the Jin family, and the family needed a foundation establishment great cultivator to preside over it. Xiener, on a pavilion, Xiao Yuyao dressed in a goose-yellow palace dress, her black hair neatly combed into an elegant chignon, clutched a handkerchief tightly in her hands with a gentle and graceful face full of nervousness, looking towards the back mountain. She knew that it was her son, Lu Qingxian, who was attempting the foundation establishment. Although there were many foundation establishment cultivators at Bai Lake Mountain nowadays, for Xiao Yuyao, foundation establishment cultivators were no longer so unattainable and mighty. But for her own son's foundation establishment breakthrough, she was filled with anticipation and surprise. It looks like he should have achieved a flawless foundation base. In the Lu family mansion, Lu Miaoge murmured softly while looking at the spiritual energy swirl and then gently said to the beside her, Wangshu, it's almost time for your breakthrough, isn't it? Father said let me not rush to break through, wait until I'm more familiar with the spiritual patterns before I attempt foundation establishment. Lu Wangshu, who was playing with Lu Qingxian, said listlessly. Over the years, seeing Lu Lingxiu's cultivation speed, she worried that she might be surpassed by him one day. Thus, she thought of achieving foundation establishment earlier, to maintain her dignity as an elder sister, but her father disapproved. Your father is doing this for your good. The 99 mystical talisman scripture you practice belongs to the type that builds up a strong foundation before making a breakthrough, Lu Miaoge spoke soothingly. Knowing that this daughter before her was a true genius. Once she breaks through to foundation establishment, with the accumulated foundation, she'd probably be not much inferior to her son, Lu Qingshan. Thus, under everyone's attention and discussion, half a month passed. That day, a faint halo of colors rose from the spiritual energy swirl behind Baiyun Peak and then slowly faded away. Spiritual aura manifesting as a halo, that means the breakthrough was successful. Apart from Big Brother, our family now has another foundation establishment cultivator. Foundation establishment, we still have foundation establishment elixirs in the family. As long as I quickly reach the peak of 9th level energy refinement, I could also hope to break through. I wonder if the family will still have any foundation establishment elixirs left by the time I reach the 9th level of energy refinement. Many Lu family disciples paid close attention to the situation, feeling encouraged but also an added sense of urgency. Although the family has foundation establishment elixirs, everyone thought these were limited in number, and one might miss out by being too slow. Therefore, even amongst siblings, something like foundation establishment was worth competing for. Behind the cliff of Baiyun Peak. Father. Lu Qingxian, immediately after the successful breakthrough, opened his eyes, looking excited and joyously called out to Lu Changxing. Even though in previous years Lu Changxing arranged for him to be tempered in the marketplace, increasing his maturity, at this moment, having succeeded in his foundation establishment breakthrough, there was still an uncontrollable joy in his heart. Qingxian, congratulations on your foundation establishment. Lu Changsheng's face showed a smile as he said to his son, now take your time to experience the transformation of the foundation establishment baptism. Later your father has a gift for you. Yes, father. Lu Qingxian closed his eyes again, knowing that it was not the time for great joy or sorrow. After Lu Qingxian completed the foundation establishment baptism, his entire being, essence, qi, and spirit, visibly changed, his body emanating a faintly intense and powerful aura. Let's go, well see your mother. Lu Changxing spoke, going with his son to see the concubine, Xiao Yuyao. Master, Qingxian, in the courtyard, Xiao Yuyao saw Lu Changxing and his son Lu Qingxian arriving through the air, her expression stunned, and her eyes somewhat teary. In her life, she had experienced drastic ups and downs. In her early years, her family was destroyed, and she was sold into the White Jade Tower. She thought she had reached a dead end in life but then met Lu Changxing. Despite continually giving birth, the 7th child she bore not only possessed a spiritual root but a 4th-grade spiritual root at that. And now, this son had even broken through to foundation establishment, becoming a foundation establishment great cultivator that her entire former family would have had to look up to. Mother. Lu Qingxian came before his mother and bowed deeply. Chapter 1095, Sons and Daughters Break Through the Foundation Establishment, Spiritual Embryo of Heaven and Earth. _4 Chapter 1095, Chapter 385, Sons and Daughters Break Through the Foundation Establishment, Spiritual Embryo of Heaven and Earth. _4 Very good, very good. Xiao Yuyao wept tears of joy. For a moment, she didn't know what to say. Yuyao, you've worked hard these years. Lu Changxing stepped forward, holding Xiao Yuyao's hands, and said softly. This servant has not suffered. To have met my lord is the luckiest thing in this servant's life. Xiao Yuyao said with a choked voice. After a brief catch-up, Lu Changxing asked Lu Qingxian to go back and solidify his cultivation level, and to come to find him once his realm was stable. Then he told Lu Miaoyun to inform their son Lu Xingyang, and to arrange a simple foundation establishment ceremony at home to celebrate, inviting only a few familiar families. System, draw the lottery. After delegating tasks, Lu Changxing arrived at the summit of Blue Cloud Peak to start the advanced lottery he had obtained before. I wonder what I can draw this time, please, no more cultivation techniques, Lu Changxing muttered to himself. Although the 2 previous lottery draws had yielded grand prizes like the Yin Yang creation scripture, he truly feared the system might offer him another cultivation technique. Cultivation techniques of the orthodox level he could still teach at home. But cultivation techniques obtained from the advanced lottery had too high a threshold, none could be taught currently, so they were left to gather dust. Immediately, the advanced lottery will appeared, bathed in golden light, and eventually stopped at the heavenly and earthly treasures section. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining Peachwood Spirit Womb. Reward has been issued to the system space. The host may check at any time. Instantly, an image of a blackened peach tree appeared, along with a system notification sound. Spiritual embryo? Lu Changxing saw the prize and his heart jolted. He immediately looked into the system space. Spiritual embryo, Peachwood Spirit Womb, grade, 4th rank, description. Born from the spiritual mechanism where the 10,000-year peach gods would meet heaven and earth. If it reaches great success, it can transform into a true spirit. It really is a spiritual embryo of heaven and earth, but why is it only 4th rank? Lu Changxing frowned slightly at the description of his prize. He hadn't expected the advanced lottery to have a 4th rank prize. But thinking about it, he realized it made sense. A regular lottery would only produce a 4th rank prize with extreme luck, and having 4th and 5th rank prizes in the advanced lottery was also normal. I wonder if this spiritual embryo is the same as what I've read in ancient texts. If it is, Lu Changxing's eyes narrowed as he murmured to himself. He had come across the concept of spiritual embryos before in a handbook. Born not of flesh and blood, they were nourished by heaven and earth. Spiritual embryos come in many kinds. It could be a stone, a piece of jade, a piece of wood, or even an entire mountain, a river, or a flame, a blade of grass. Different from demons, spiritual embryos are born from the moment of life and death as a product of the yin and yang of the world, gradually nurtured into existence. In theory, such spiritual embryos can grow continuously, eventually becoming a true spirit, invincible in the world upon their emergence. However, for a spiritual embryo to grow into a true spirit is nearly impossible. Their very formation is exceedingly harsh, a sort of miracle. Every step of growth requires enduring long years and countless tribulations. Thus, the notion of such spiritual embryos growing into true spirits is mostly theoretical. Nevertheless, these nurturing spiritual embryo of heaven and earth are supremely treasured and incredibly rare for cultivators. Not only can they be used to refine great elixirs, increase cultivation level, nourish divine skills. They can also be utilized to cultivate external incarnations and refine Dao soldiers. In the handbook Lu Changxing once read, there was a record of a top-tier sect that acquired a 9-aperture stone womb, from which they refined the nurturing spiritual embryo into one of the supreme Dao weapons. Extract. Without hesitation, Lu Changxing chose to extract the spiritual embryo. To see if its effects were exactly as he knew. Chapter 1096, 100-Year Nascent Soul, Divine Communion. Chapter 1096, Chapter 386, 100-Year Nascent Soul, Divine Communion. A huge half of a withered tree appeared in front of Lu Changxing. The trunk was charred all over, resembling a stump, without a crown or any branches. However, on the trunk, there were 9 dazzling and bright peaches, as if they were carved from jade, radiating with a vibrant life force. Peachwood Spirit Womb. Lu Changxing looked at the Peachwood Spirit Womb in front of him. Through the system, he knew that the Peachwood Spirit Womb before him was indeed the same as the spiritual embryo of heaven and earth that he knew. It was originally a 10,000-year-old peach god tree. During the transformation tribulation, a spark of spiritual mechanism was born under the heavenly tribulation by chance, thus nurturing this spiritual embryo. Currently, the spiritual embryo still had no consciousness, being in the midst of growth. Only when it grew to 5th rank would it begin to slowly generate cognitive thoughts. This Peachwood Spirit Womb could not only be used as a top-tier great medicine to enhance one's cultivation level and nourish divine skills, but could also require vast efforts to cleanse the spirit womb, and with the soul dwelling within, refine it into an external incarnation or a Dao soldier. Such a spiritual embryo, if made to come into this world prematurely, would possess 3rd rank cultivation directly, comparable to core formation. With the continuous nourishing of heavenly and earthly treasures, it could rapidly grow, and at most within 100 years, reach the 4th rank nascent soul level. Unlike cultivators or demon beasts, this growth process has no bottlenecks and flows naturally like water finds its course. If I refine this spiritual embryo into an external incarnation, wouldn't I have a nascent soul doppelganger? In less than 100 years, could it grow into a nascent soul true lord's doppelganger? Lu Changxing was somewhat astonished in his heart. In the Jianghu country cultivation realm, nascent soul immortals already belonged to the first tier, esteemed and revered. And this spiritual embryo was born with third-rank cultivation. With sufficient resources, it could grow without bottlenecks to fourth rank. Keep in mind that in the entire Jianghu country cultivation realm, there was only Xianjian true monarch of the heavenly sword sect, who was a nascent soul true lord. Moreover, this spirit embryo, before it comes into the world, can be influenced through the soul's dwelling and heartfelt cleansing, so that it can grow in the appearance one desires. For example, if I want a sword cultivator doppelganger, a sword cultivator Dao soldier, it could be perfectly aligned with the 7 luminaries' great freedom sword scripture if I let the embryo cycle this cultivation technique in its embryonic state. At this moment, Lu Changxing deeply understood why such heaven and earth spirit embryos were suitable for refining into external incarnations. However, he did not have the intention of refining an external incarnation. Firstly, he currently did not possess the cultivation technique for external incarnations. Secondly, the cultivation of external incarnations was extremely demanding. As far as Lu Changxing knew, at least the core formation stage was needed to practice external incarnations. Moreover, such a method required one to sever half of their own soul. For cultivators, the soul was of utmost importance. Not to mention severing half, even ordinary damage required considerable time to heal. To sever half, one not only needed to spend countless heavenly and earthly treasures to nourish and repair but probably also needed decades of recuperation. Lu Changxing could not afford to invest so much time and energy for a doppelganger. Moreover, he had read in ancient books that such external incarnations had several hidden risks. For instance, if the doppelganger left the main body for too long, it could potentially develop its own consciousness, or its cognitive thoughts might differ from those of the main body. Even more, if the doppelganger became stronger than the main body, it might even backfire. Although the likelihood of this was very small. But just this risk alone was enough for Lu Changxing to disregard the method of external incarnation. However, this spirit embryo is quite suitable to be the body for Hong Lian, Lu Changxing mused silently. Although the spirit embryo could also be refined into a Dao soldier, compared to refining a Dao soldier, he was more inclined to use it to rebuild Hong Lian's physical body. On one hand, he had made a promise to Hong Lian in his early years. On the other hand, given Hong Lian's current soul state, finding a suitable body to merge and accommodate her soul was extremely difficult. Initially, Hong Lian herself set 3 rough conditions. A complete skeleton of a nascent soul true lord. Heaven and earth spirit objects that could be used to refine external incarnations. Certain physical bodies crafted from heavenly and earthly treasures. Any of these conditions were very stringent. Even if he made a breakthrough to core formation, he might not be able to obtain them. Yet, the Peachwood spirit womb directly met the above 3 conditions. Not only could it perfectly integrate and accommodate her soul, but it could also allow her to tailor-make her own body. And it would enable her to quickly return to peak performance, recovering to the nascent soul true lord cultivation level. Just that if I do this, there's one problem. Lu Changxing's eyes slightly narrowed. Although Hong Lian had been tirelessly performing duties for the Lu family these past decades, refining pills, artifacts, formations, even teaching and advising the children, she was obedient to him, like a maid. But deep down, Lu Changxing still had not completely trusted Hong Lian. After all, she was a nascent soul true lord. Understandably, she would be more courteous because she was relying on someone else. But for a nascent soul true lord to be so excessively amiable towards him felt exaggerated, didn't it? With Hong Lian's insights and methods as a nascent soul true lord, if she were to obtain the Peachwood spirit womb, escaping from his control would be incredibly easy. Therefore, Lu Changxing harbored some worries. I'll wait until I've achieved core formation, then explore her intentions later. After pondering for a moment, Lu Changxing entrusted the Peachwood spirit womb before him to the care of the Mount Sumer Tree King. deciding to consider giving the spirit embryo to Hong Lian only after he had achieved core formation. By the way, if the spirit womb naturally nurtures life, what would be the nature of the child it bears? Human, or a peach demon? Lu Changxing thought suddenly, hitting upon a question. With regards to Hong Lian, to say he had not the slightest interest would be impossible. After all, to truly become one of his own people, isn't it all about going from being intimate to having her as the mother of the child? Moreover, this process of coexistence is a perfect way to cultivate affection. Never mind, let's not count our chickens before they hatch. Chapter 1097, 100-Year Nascent Soul, Divine Communion. Chapter 1097, Chapter 386, 100-Year Nascent Soul, Divine Communion. Lu Changxing shook his head, not dwelling on it too much, and went to Changxing Hall to use the cultivation and magical power he had gained for condensing the elemental elixir. According to the theory he knew, it was extremely difficult for humans and the demon race to have offspring, let alone conceiving a spiritual embryo that counts as half a true spirit. However, if it really came to life, it couldn't be bad. Yu Country, Jinyang Sect. Returned to Jiang Country. Upon hearing Lu Qingshan's words, Tianyuan True Immortal observed the siblings before him and pondered, saying, "Currently, Azure Phoenix Immortal City is unstable due to matters concerning the Azure Phoenix Immortal. If you go back now, you must be careful. If it's not urgent, you could wait a few years to return, or wait until I have time to take you back." Tianyuan True Immortal said so. Azure Phoenix Immortal City was located on the border between Jiang Country and Yu Country. Now the affairs of the Azure Phoenix Immortal were causing a great stir, attracting attention not only from many forces in Jiang Country but also from numerous forces within Yu Country. Once it is confirmed that the Azure Phoenix Immortal has left, several major forces will divide Azure Phoenix Immortal City. Azure Phoenix Immortal City. Lu Qingshan, hearing this, became somewhat interested and asked, "Master, is it true as the rumors say that the Azure Phoenix Immortal left Azure Phoenix Immortal City to seek a nascent soul opportunity outside?" Most likely, the Azure Phoenix Immortal is almost 400 years old. At this age, even with heavenly and earthly treasures or secret techniques to maintain her state, delaying further will affect the probability of forming a nascent soul. Tianyuan True Immortal, dressed in a luxurious bright red robe, looked languid, sipped from a flask in her hand, and spoke. These forces were almost certain that the Azure Phoenix Immortal had already left Azure Phoenix Immortal City. They were now observing to confirm whether the Azure Phoenix Immortal genuinely departed or only pretended to leave, actually fishing. After all, the rumors of the severe injury of the Azure Phoenix Immortal in her early years had trapped many people and forces. 400 years old? Lu Qingshan was somewhat surprised, not expecting the Azure Phoenix Immortal to be so aged. However, recalling that the other was once known as Jiang Country's #1 independent cultivator and had been famous for several hundred years, it seemed reasonable. He continued to inquire, "Master, what are the chances of success for the Azure Phoenix Immortal's breakthrough to the nascent soul?" 30%. Tianyuan True Immortal took another sip of her drink. Only a 30% chance for the nascent soul, for Jiang Country's #1 independent cultivator? Lu Qingshan was a bit surprised. Although a 30% chance was already high for many nascent soul immortals, in his view, compared to the legendary life of the Azure Phoenix Immortal, this probability seemed somewhat low. 30% is already very high. It's rumored that the Azure Phoenix Immortal's talent wasn't considered high initially. It was only because of fortuitous encounters and acquiring a kind of acquired spirit body along with the Qingluan Dao Bing, that she gradually rose to such a level. These hundreds of years, although Azure Phoenix Immortal had ingested a massive amount of spirit stones and heavenly and earthly treasures through the Azure Phoenix Immortal City, cultivating her Dao soldier, the spiritual beast Azure Wan, wanting to obtain an infant transformation elixir to help break through to nascent soul was nearly impossible. Without the infant transformation elixir, relying only on an acquired spirit body or a few nascent soul spiritual objects, a 30% chance is already the highest. Furthermore, the Azure Phoenix Immortal is proud and unwilling to join other forces, making it a challenge to get a fourth-order spirit vein for striking at the nascent soul, only able to head for a fourth-order immortal city. Tianyuan True Immortal shook her head and said somewhat emotionally, While speaking of the Azure Phoenix Immortal, she was also reflecting on the difficulty and uncertainty of her own breakthrough to the nascent soul. Infant Transformation Elixir. Lu Qingshan nodded, knowing that just like the Foundation Establishment Elixir during the Qi Refinement Realm and the Coagulation Crystal Elixir during the Foundation Establishment stage, there was an elixir medicine called Infant Transformation Elixir during the Core Formation's breakthrough to nascent soul. It could help nascent soul cultivators more smoothly shatter the core to transform to infant. But for independent cultivators, obtaining such an elixir was practically impossible. Still, Lu Qingshan guessed that perhaps even a sect like Jianghu didn't have the means to obtain the infant transformation elixir. What do you plan to do? Tianyuan True Immortal looked at Lu Qingshan and inquired. Master, I still plan to return now. Little Zhu and I will take the spiritual vessel all the way, hence there shouldn't be any danger. Lu Qingshan looked at his sister beside him and said directly. He knew that his sister had always been looking forward to returning home after her Foundation establishment. Now that she has achieved it, if they waited a few more years, she would say nothing, but would surely feel disheartened inside. Alright, since that's the case, you too will take the sect's spiritual vessel, and once you reach Azure Phoenix Immortal City, continue using the Qingyun sect's spiritual vessel. Tianyuan True Immortal didn't try to persuade otherwise. After all, with Lu Qingshan's strength, as long as he didn't encounter someone at the false core immortal level, there would generally be no danger. Thank you, Master. Lu Qingshan smiled and greeted with a bow. Thank you, Master. Lu Qingzhu gently pursed her lips, her tranquil and elegant face also showing a joyful smile. Bihu Mountain. Changxing Hall. Lu Changxing was cultivating the Sun-Moon Samsara technique with Lu Miaoge. At this moment, the two entered a mysterious state, as if their souls were traversing the great void, their divine sense and souls beginning to touch and merge like water with milk. Their souls, thoughts, and spirits seemed to merge into one, each able to feel the deep affection and thoughts in the other's heart. After an unknown amount of time, in a trance, the two simultaneously opened their eyes flowing with a spirit desire, making their gazes sticky and intense. Ah! At this moment, both uttered in surprise, as if seeing something astonishing. Is this Sun-Moon Samsara technique at the stage of small achievement? Lu Changxing looked at Lu Miaoge, whose forehead now bore a bright moon, and said with some delight. The minor achievement of the Sun-Moon Samsara technique would form a sun and a moon on the foreheads of the man and woman respectively. Afterwards, the two could meld their souls and refine their divine sense through these celestial bodies, purifying their souls. I didn't expect the Sun-Moon Samsara technique to reach small achievement so soon. It seems this technique was tailor-made for us. Lu Changxing looked at his wife, whose face blushed like jade, breathing lightly, his hand wandering over her white jade-like, tender skin, his heart filled with tranquility. Though they had been husband and wife for many years, Lu Miaoge always had a gentle sisterly demeanor that was very comforting. Lu Miaoge's beautiful eyes were moist as she nestled against Lu Changxing's bosom, softly responding. Although aware that their fast progress in the Sun-Moon Samsara technique was related to the earlier soul path dream. Seeing herself and Lu Changxing's high speed in cultivating the technique, Lu Miaoge still felt sweet joy in her heart. After a while, the two continued with the Sun-Moon Samsara technique for dual cultivation, melding their soul and physical body, stabilizing foundations, and enhancing their cultivation level. Although Lu Changxing's soul was comparable to that of a nascent soul immortal, and his cultivation could not progress further, this process mainly benefited Lu Miaoge. But due to their cultivation of the Tai-E life water technique, Lu Changxing felt his mana refining somewhat. And his physical body, under this wonderful dual cultivation technique, gradually imbued with more of the essence of utmost kindness like water, infinite and nurturing, soothing his organs, meridians, and dantian. Hum, their mana flowed like a brilliant long river between them, endlessly cycling, making Lu Miaoge's exquisite jade body emanate mysterious yin and yang energies. With the help of the yin-yang creation scripture and Sun-Moon Samsara technique, their compatibility with the Tai-E life water technique now might even surpass that of the ancestors who created the technique. This made Lu Maiage's technique not only not inferior to the profound mystery rank but also made her cultivation speed comparable to that of someone with a top-grade spiritual root. Once Lu Changxing breaks through core formation and his Tai Dao seed advances further, she could reap many benefits, and her future core formation seemed promising. After a long time, the two completed their dual cultivation, filled with a spirit desire in their hearts, feeling an inseparable connection. Afterwards, Lu Changxing clearly realized that this belonged to the side effects of the soul dual cultivation of the Sun-Moon Samsara technique. The two would indulge in the spirit desire. Or rather, it was as if experiencing this profound spiritual communion for the first time, they were somewhat enchanted. This made Lu Changxing realize the effects of this soul dual cultivation. During this process, it was easy for the two to develop feelings and increase their fondness for one another. And in the meeting of their minds, the two truly shared openly, understanding each other's thoughts and ideas. Can I use this profound communion to cultivate a relationship with Hong Lian, and understand her nature, thoughts, and ideas? Lu Changxing pondered. Now that the Sun-Moon Samsara technique had reached a minor achievement, he also gained a secret technique. He could actively merge his soul with others, using his own soul to nurture and repair someone else's soul. Although this process could cause a slight harm to himself, leading to spiritual listlessness, it could enhance the relationship during the communion and provide insight into each other's thoughts and ideas. Hong Lian has worked hard all these years without much acknowledgement, and she's also the master of my son. As a father I should properly thank her. Lu Changxing stroked his chin, thinking that a little harm wasn't a big issue. But this matter, too, had to wait until after core formation. After all, his soul and Hong Lian's were too different at the moment. If the convergence process proved ineffective, it would be embarrassing. Chapter 1098, The Last Cultivation, Striking Down the Ancestor of Jin Family. Chapter 1098, Chapter 387, The Last Cultivation, Striking Down the Ancestor of Jin Family. In the cold and quiet underground cave. A year later, Yun Wanshang sent a message again, asking Lu Changxing to help with cultivation. This was their last cultivation session together. But the process was the same as before. As soon as Lu Changxing arrived, he entered a familiar state where he could not see or move. Following that, a fragrant and sweet elixir medicine emitting a charming aroma was fed into his mouth. Once his blood boiled, a soft and graceful jade body straddled him. Lu Changxing honestly operated the Sun-Moon Samsara technique. However, as the cultivation technique operated, a bright sun emerged at his forehead during the intermingling process of yin and yang with Yun Wanshang, and the physical restraint began to gradually dissipate. Lu Changxing was slightly startled and somewhat surprised. What's happening? Why is the restraint on his body being released? Could it be that this true immortal is indicating that he should take the initiative? But he immediately realized that this was the effect of the Sun-Moon Samsara technique. Because his small achievement in the Sun-Moon Samsara technique made the dual cultivation effect more harmonious. Thus, during this process, the opponent's primordial yin mana merging with him helped to partially dissolve the restrictive force on his body. The Sun-Moon Samsara technique also has this effect. Lu Changxing was a bit surprised. However, having been unable to move for so long, he felt somewhat uneasy now that he suddenly could, unsure of what to do. After a moment, his mental spirit stirred tentatively and he reached out to embrace the stunningly beautiful jade bodice waist. Instantly, Lu Changxing felt the body of Kaiyun True Immortal tense up and stiffen for a moment. However, she did not say anything and continued to ride, letting him take his actions. Seeing that she seemed not to resist, Lu Changxing gradually became bolder. Several days later. In another dark room in the cave. A spiritual pool formed by the eyes of a spiritual spring, the spiritual energy and mist steaming and pervading, making the bleak and cold room seem touched by the aura of immortals. Yun Wanshang, with her black hair cascading like a waterfall, unparalleled in beauty, her celestial-like jade body soaked in the spiritual spring, only exposing her snowy white shoulders above the water. She quietly watched the golden core in her chi ocean core, radiating a brilliant luster. On the surface of the golden core, there were mysterious and extraordinary glazed golden cloud patterns. A black and white yin-yang fish slowly swam around the golden core, as if meticulously carving this core. After these days of dual cultivation are over, I can aim for the immortal golden core after this closed-door cultivation, Yun Wanshang silently thought to herself. A first-grade golden core, also called an immortal golden core. In any power, it is considered to be a nascent soul seed. It is rumored that even those with a lower-grade spiritual root, as long as they obtain an immortal golden core, have a fair chance of breaking through to the nascent soul stage. Because the Tao Foundation, golden core, and nascent soul are all symbols of a cultivator's potential and foundation. Through a person's Tao Foundation, golden core, and nascent soul, one can know their strength, foundation, and future potential. And an immortal golden core is the highest achievement in the core formation stage. However, thinking about how Lu Changsheng's Sun Moon Samsara technique has achieved a small accomplishment and he has become increasingly bold these days. Never mind. Yun Wanshang shook her head, not too concerned. He has been under her restraint, unable to move for so long. Now finally, this last time, she can let him indulge a bit. After all, no matter what he does, he cannot resist her. Lu Changsheng. Don't overstep your bounds. Lu Changsheng. You're being too presumptuous. Since this was their last time, the two underwent dual cultivation for half a year. During this process, Lu Changsheng continuously tested his master's limits. Although he wasn't able to reverse their roles, at least it wasn't as boring and passive as before. There was some slight interaction. Through this thorough interaction, Lu Changsheng gained a deeper understanding of this Kaiyun true immortal. Her image overlapped continuously with the image in the soul path dreams. Will this continue? Perhaps he'll even hear, Lu Changsheng. Aren't you quite proud? Lu Changsheng inwardly speculated. But with the end of cultivation with this Kaiyun true immortal, he could now confidently pick the Tianyuan Supreme King Lotus, solve his family's spirit vein, and prepare for core formation with peace of mind. At that moment, Lu Changsheng saw the neatly dressed Kaiyun true immortal approaching. She wore a colorful and luxurious palace dress, her hair neatly styled up, her beauty as if a celestial maiden had descended, her elegance and grace unparalleled. However, at this moment, her noble and sacred, cool and celestial face, faintly displayed a touch of indescribable enchanting allure. Senior. Lu Changsheng bowed with his hands clasped. Although the two of them had already become very close, he still maintained a certain distance and the respect that was due. Primarily because Kaiyun True Immortal's personality was quite serious, not one for jokes. In matters of cultivation, I owe you a favor. If you encounter any trouble, feel free to send me a message. If you need help with your core formation one day, you can also find me. Yun Wanshang stated coldly and calmly. Even though the yin-yang energies from Lu Changsheng originated from her own spirit-nurturing energy, and the dual cultivation process was beneficial for both, she did not take it for granted or feel she owed nothing. Thank you, Senior. Lu Changsheng bowed with his hands clasped. Having been ridden by her for so long, the reason he didn't inherently despise or detest her was because her attitude was fairly decent. Far from being haughty or overbearing. Yun Wanshang gave Lu Changsheng a deep glance, didn't say much, and left as a divine rainbow. Through the long period of dual cultivation, she had already realized that Lu Changsheng was concealing his cultivation level through some means. It couldn't just be Foundation Establishment's 6th layer. Most likely, he had already broken through to the Foundation Establishment late stage. However, regarding this, she did not inquire further. In the cultivation world, those who rise up, aside from the few top-tier geniuses, which one didn't have some fortunate secret? Chapter 1099, The Final Cultivation, Smashing the Ancestor of Gene Family. Chapter 1099, Chapter 387, The Final Cultivation, Smashing the Ancestor of Gene Family. Like Lu Changsheng, a cultivator from a modest family, to reach such a realm within mere decades, his chances and secrets are anything but ordinary. So, if he is in need, she wouldn't mind supporting his growth, offering a little help along his cultivation journey, and considering it as forming a good connection. Moreover, should she one day face the challenge of reaching the nascent soul stage, she may need to rely on Lu Changsheng's cultivation. When Lu Changsheng saw Yun Wanshang leave, he took a deep breath and slowly exhaled, turning himself into a beam of escape light as he headed back to Bai Lake Mountain. Kaiyun True Immortal had just returned to Kaiyun Peak when she saw her disciple, Xianxia, coming back. Without needing to think, she knew Xianxia probably went to Bai Lake Mountain. Thinking that for the past half-year Lu Changsheng had been with her, Yun Wanshang felt a hint of unwarranted guilt in her heart. Alas, fate plays with people. Yun Wanshang watched Xianxia, whose figure was as lonely as the 9 heavens' bright moon, and let out a small sigh. There was a time when this disciple of hers was lively and radiant. But for the sake of the great Tao, she practiced the supreme forgetful love technique and became like this. To transform for the sake of the great Tao is one thing. But to now also be trapped in the tribulation of love, with her Tao heart compromised and the path ahead uncertain. Master. Xianxia noticed her master standing at the peak, looking at her, and approached with a respectful bow. The master, of course, approved of her cultivation with Lu Changsheng. But in her heart, Xianxia understood that her master hoped that through the sun-moon samsara technique, she could see through the mortal world and comprehend her Tao heart. Moreover, the fact that she had gone to Bai Lake Mountain showed she hadn't moved on. To attain the state of supreme, one must perceive the heavenly heart without bias or attachment, beyond joy and anger. Your teacher still hopes you can find your way out, Yun Wanshang said gently, looking at her disciple. Xiaoxia's resolve on seeking the Tao was very firm. Otherwise, she would not have been accepted as a disciple in the first place. Master, I understand, Xiaoxia said, fully aware of the meaning behind her master's words. She lightly pursed her lips, suddenly raising her head, her eyes as clear and bright as the moon above, speaking softly, Master, the ways of heaven are unpredictable, callous yet emotional. Can both be possible paths for the Tao? Yun Wanshang paused at these words, looking at the disciple in front of her and sighed, the ways of heaven are unpredictable, affectionate yet indifferent, who can truly know? The supreme forgetful love technique you cultivate is impartial as the ways of heaven, doomed not to follow this path. Reflect on what you need during your daily cultivations, and what is the Tao in your heart, Yun Wanshang advised softly. After speaking, she disappeared, returning to her own palace. Regardless, she still hoped her disciple could break through her Tao heart. Supreme forgetfulness is not heartlessness but the impartiality of heavenly ways. But if the heavenly ways are impartial, why do some people seem to be favored by heaven, with a smooth cultivation path laden with fortunate encounters, while others seem destined to die young or are forced to become outlaws, or even befallen by disasters from above? Xiaoxia murmured to herself in contemplation. The discussion she once had with Lu Changsheng about the philosophy of yin and yang, emotions and indifference, had greatly influenced her. She knew that overcoming the tribulation of emotions was almost impossible. Thus, she wanted to follow Lu Changsheng's suggestion, to find her own path based on the foundation of the supreme forgetful love technique. By Lake Mountain. Lu Family Mansion. Xiaohe, how many spirit stones have you saved up? Lu Wangshu saw her younger sister, Lu Lingyi, seriously counting the spirit stones and asked. I forgot, I haven't finished counting yet. Lu Lingyi, in a red jacket with her hair tied into cute buns, looked up perplexed and said. Lu Wangshu's eyes curved into a smile as she cheerfully took out 10 spirit stones from her storage bag and handed them to Lu Lingyi, saying, Xiaohe, sister has a few more spirit stones here, I'll give them to you. Lu Lingyi blinked in astonishment. Her sister often tricked her for spirit stones, so why was she giving them to her today voluntarily? She tilted her head, her voice crisp as she asked, Sister, don't you need the spirit stones? Isn't it only right for a sister to give her little sister some spending money? Lu Wangshu lovingly stroked her little sister's head with a look of affection. But if you give them to me, you won't have any left, sister. Lu Ling's innocent face revealed her simple-mindedness as she said so. Worried about your sister, huh? All right then, let's keep the sister's spirit stones with you, and we'll spend the money together. In a few days, sister will take you to the marketplace, do you want to go? Lu Wangshu beamed brightly, hugging her sister affectionately as she spoke. Thank you, sister. Lu Lingyi happily agreed, then put the 10 spirit stones into her own sachet-style storage bag. From a distance, Lu Lingxiao saw Lu Wangshu talking to their sister and immediately approached. Seeing her sister fooled yet unaware, he said annoyed, "Lu Wangshu, you're tricking Xiaohe out of spirit stones again. Lu Lingxiao, watch how you speak to your sister. I and Xiaohe have a close sisterly bond. You could learn a thing or two from her, show some respect to your sister." Lu Wangshu folded her arms and scoffed at her brother. "Sister, brother, don't fight." Lu Lingyi, seeing her brother and sister about to argue, hurriedly spoke up. If they started quarreling, her brother would end up being beaten by her sister again. What's going on here? At that moment, Lu Changxing had just returned home and, hearing the commotion, came to inquire. "It's nothing. Ling Xiao, Xiaohe, and I were just playing around," Lu Wangshu said, sounding somewhat sheepish. "Humph." Lu Lingxiao gave Lu Wangshu a cold snort and said, "Dad, it's nothing." He was often bullied by Lu Wangshu, but he never snitched. He vowed to one day surpass Lu Wangshu with his own strength. Chapter 1100, The Last Cultivation, Assaulting the Ancestor of Jin Family. Chapter 1100, Chapter 387, The Last Cultivation, Assaulting the Ancestor of Jin Family. "Come, Xiaohe, tell Daddy what happened." Lu Changxing naturally knew that his daughter, Lu Wangshu, and Lu Lingxiao didn't see eye to eye. Or rather, Lu Wangshu liked to tease her siblings on normal days. Xiaohe relayed the situation, and after listening, Lu Changxing was left somewhat speechless as he looked at his daughter. He thought to himself that the other party was truly bored enough to find different ways to trick Xiaohe out of her pocket money every day. However, despite Lu Wangshu's tactics, his daughter Lu Lingyi never seemed to learn her lesson and continued to trust Lu Wangshu deeply, which baffled Lu Changxing. All right, Wangshu, you're already such a grown-up. Try to tease Xiaohe and Lingxiao less in your daily life," Lu Changxing said to his daughter Lu Wangshu. As a second-grade talisman master, this daughter of his wouldn't lack money on normal days, let alone needing the few spirit stones from Lu Lingyi. This was purely out of boredom, seeking amusement through her younger brother and sister. However, at Bai Lake Mountain, Lu Wangshu often played and messed around with Lu Lingxiao and Lu Lingyi. Now, there were also Lu Qingqi and Lu Qingxian. "Got it." Lu Wangshu pouted as she spoke. Subsequently, Lu Changxing inquired about the cultivation progress of the 3 children. Lu Wangshu had long reached the 9th level energy refinement peak and was capable of breaking through to foundation establishment. However, Lu Changxing still advised her to continue accumulating. Because with the 99 mystical talisman scripture, cultivation technique, when breaking through foundation establishment, one could condense the comprehended spiritual patterns and runes into their Tao foundation. Not only could this enhance the Tao foundation's depth, but it could also condense a life-bound divine talisman and perform techniques like void drawing of talismans, whose power would far exceed that of an average person. For instance, the same talisman or talisman formation, in the hands of an ordinary person, would have normal power. But in the hands of Lu Wangshu, the effect and power would be 30 to 40% higher, or even doubled. Such an increase was tremendously exaggerated. By then, Lu Wangshu's talisman formation would be a real trump card. Her son, Lu Lingxiao, had the cultivation of 6th level energy refinement, but could break through to 7th level energy refinement at any time. According to Hong Lian, it wasn't necessary for Lu Lingxiao to advance his realm so quickly. Gradual breakthroughs over time, slowly grinding, could provide more accumulations and be more solid. Moreover, progressing too quickly in the early stages of cultivation without sufficient mental tempering could lead to mental imbalance when encountering any bottleneck in the later stages. Many geniuses experienced smooth sailing in the early stages of their cultivation, as effortless as eating and drinking, which led to a complete downturn when they encountered a bottleneck later on. As for his daughter Lu Lingyi, she was much behind, only at 4th level energy refinement. On one hand, Lu Lingyi started her cultivation late. Additionally, this daughter was somewhat playful and interested in everything, resulting in her learning slowly. After attending to the matters of his children, Lu Changxing asked his wife Lu Miaoyan whether there were any significant events in the past 6 months at home. A moment later, he heard news that some time ago, the ancestor of the Jin family led people to Huji Ridge. Huji Ridge, Lu Changxing was aware of this family force. It belonged to an old, prominent family. Although they did not have a false core immortal presiding. But overtly, the family had 5 foundation establishment cultivators, with the elder ancestor being a foundation establishment late-stage great cultivator. Upon brief inquiry, Lu Changxing learned that the Jin family's visit wasn't to take down Huji Ridge. It was due to conflicts between the two families, and they went to demand an explanation. However, Lu Changxing speculated that, aside from wanting to ask for an explanation, the ancestor of the Jin family's visit was likely also to establish dominance. Previously, Jin Zan clashed with me not just to probe, but also to use the opportunity to assert their power. The outcome wasn't only unsuccessful but also led to a significant loss in the family's face, so naturally, they would want to regain face by other means. This old and established foundation establishment family, Huji Ridge, has always been at odds with the Jin family, and not far apart, so it makes sense for the Jin family to assert dominance over them now. Lu Changsheng's eyes narrowed slightly as he pondered in his heart. In the cultivation world, family forces were very particular about their reputation. Just like in the past, when the second-generation elder of the Su family was killed and the elder ancestor of the Su family could not find the murderer, he went directly to the 5 Elements royal family to assert power and deter other forces. Because when such incidents happened, if there was no response, the outside world would think your family power had declined, becoming weak and vulnerable. Going forward, the family's businesses, marketplace transactions, vassal families, even visiting noble servants and others would all be impacted. This is an opportunity, Lu Changsheng's mind stirred. He had always wanted to ambush the ancestor of the Jin family or Jin Zan, to prevent the Jin family from causing trouble during his breakthrough to core formation. Now that the ancestor of the Jin family had left their clan and was at Huji Ridge, it was a good opportunity for him to take action. As long as he killed the ancestor of the Jin family, Golden Dragon Ridge would return to the previous deadlock, allowing for stable development. This was precisely the situation Lu Changxing needed. Moreover, once the matters regarding the Jin family were settled, he could leave without worry to head to the Myriad Beasts mountain range to sever the spiritual vein origin, thus charging towards core formation. Without delay, Lu Changxing left by Lake Mountain for Huji Ridge in disguise. Huji Ridge. The original name of this mountain ridge was no longer known to people. As the Hu family took up residence, gradually, it became known as Huji Ridge. At this moment, boom boom boom. The Hu family's great formation was in operation, and the entire family spirit land was enveloped in a red glow, as if a giant red python was coiling around. The ancestor of the Jin family along with 2 foundation establishment cultivators and more than 20 energy refinement late-stage cultivators formed a formation and launched attacks on Huji Ridge. Techniques bombarded the great formation protecting Huji Ridge, making a rumbling noise that threw the surrounding nature's spiritual energy into chaos. Facing such an offensive, Huji Ridge was merely defending without anyone coming forward. If anyone had cultivated the pupil skill and observed carefully, they could see through the obscure mist of Huji Ridge's family great formation and notice atop a mountain peak, nature's spiritual energy was converging, forming a small-scale spiritual energy vortex. Indicating that someone within Huji Ridge was at the final stage of breaking through to foundation establishment right then. Chapter 1101, NAL Cultivation, Annihilating the Ancestor of Jin Family. _4 Chapter 1101, 387, The Final Cultivation, Annihilating the Ancestor of Jin Family. _4 Damn it, the Jin family is truly overbearing. Not long ago when Lu Changsheng's son made a breakthrough to foundation establishment, the Jin family didn't lay a hand on him. Now when our Hu family's youngster breaks through to foundation establishment, they resort to such measures. A foundation establishment cultivator from the Hu family looked at the cultivators from the Jin family outside with a face full of frustration and said, "The Huji Ridge of the Hu family, as a heritage that has been passed down for hundreds of years. Even when they faced the Jin family in the past, though they were not a match, they were never fearful. But now to be bullied by the Jin family to this extent is extraordinarily frustrating. Especially the way the Jin family has acted. It seems as if they think our Hu family is easy to bully, even more so than the newly rising Blue Lake Mountain Lu family. That old ghost from the Jin family is so brazen to come to our Huji Ridge. Isn't he afraid that someone will disturb his Golden Dragon Ridge? Prepare the Great Formation. Once Fei Guang completes the breakthrough, well, give the old ghost from the Jin family a lesson. 2 Foundation establishment cultivators from the Hu family said indignantly, preparing to make the Jin family patriarch pay the price after the family's breakthrough is complete, to show that the Hu family is not so easily bullied. Just then, they suddenly looked up and saw 2 figures, a man and a woman, appear. The man appeared to be in his 30s or 40s, tall and sturdy, towering above the average person by 2 to 3 heads, with a leopard's head and ringed eyes, his face covered in twisted whiskers, resembling an iron tower, exuding an oppressive aura full of strength. The girl looked to be 17 or 18, with a delicate and pure face, pretty as a picture and pitiable, but there was a seductive charm about her. This young girl with her face downcast, obediently stood beside the large man, making their stature and appearance a stark contrast. Who is this person? An accomplice of the Jin family? No, this girl is the renegade from the Huan Yin sect, the wanted heretic cultivator Hua Zi. What, a heretic cultivator? Some from the Hu family recognized the delicate young girl among the man and the woman. What are you looking at, old fogey? At this moment, the burly man noticed the ancestor of the Jin family and others looking at them and coldly shouted. In his words, an aura similar to that of a third-rank demon beast spread from his body, accompanied by rolling black demonic evil chi. Demon cultivator. Both the Jin family and Hu family cultivators were shocked at this sight. Daoist. The ancestor of the Jin family was greatly alarmed and hurriedly shouted, bringing out his magical treasures. However, in that instant, a nascent soul divine sense shot towards him, like a silver needle piercing towards his sea of consciousness. But in his sea of consciousness, there was a small purple bell, gently swaying and guarding it. Yet in this lightning-fast moment, a seductive fragrance also entered his nostrils, dulling his mind and causing the scene before his eyes to change. Ding-ling-ding, suddenly, the small purple bell in the ancestor of the Jin family's sea of consciousness began to sway loudly, alerting his mental spirit and making him aware that this was a charm illusion technique. However, the gap in their divine senses was too vast. Even with this exotic treasure for divine sense, he still felt groggy and barely managed to struggle free. But before he could struggle out of the charm illusion technique, a figure resembling a black iron tower with rolling black evil chi and exuding a terrifying powerful aura, like a demon beast, appeared in front of him. Boom! A punch was thrown, overwhelmingly powerful, directly blasting the body of the ancestor of the Jin family into blood and gore. Silence. A deathly silence. Everyone stared, aghast at the sight of the ancestor of the Jin family, who was now blown to pieces, shrouded in a mist of blood. No one could have anticipated that 2 cultivators would suddenly appear, then with a single punch, kill the ancestor of the Jin family. Keep in mind, this was a false core patriarch, a high and mighty true pill master. But now, he has been killed by a single punch. This. Ancestor. Why? Why did you kill our family patriarch? Some of the Jin family cultivators were pale with terror, quivering, afraid to speak out loud. But others, in grief, shouted at the burly man with trembling voices. His gaze made me uncomfortable. The burly man's voice was rough and domineering as he sneered. He, daring to look at this girl more, isn't it seeking death? The delicate girl beside him giggled, her voice coquettishly seductive. While speaking, she collected the storage ring, magical treasures, and core of the Jin family patriarch. If y'all want to live, hand over your storage bags. The young girl said to the Jin family members in front of her, her voice sweet, soul-stirring. But this enchanting and tempting voice made all the Jin family cultivators tremble, daring not to say more and could only obediently hand over their storage bags. By saving you all, it's not too much to ask for remuneration, right? At this time, the burly man suddenly turned his head to look at the cultivators in Huji Ridge, sneering. "Senior, please wait a moment, we will prepare it right away." A Foundation establishment cultivator from the Hu family heard this and went weak at the knees, shakily saying. Then he immediately hurried to the family treasure vault to fetch the spirit stones and various heavenly and earthly treasures. Although their family great formation could protect them and hold off against a nascent soul cultivator for quite some time, the sheer terrifying might of the burly man's punch that killed the Jin family patriarch was too shocking, too frightening, and they dared not gamble. Moreover, through the actions of the burly man, he guessed the identity of the person. The nascent soul body cultivator who was with the Huan Yin sect renegade Hua Zi. Moments later, a Foundation establishment returned, passing several storage bags through the family great formation. "Senior, these are all the resources from our family treasury already," he said with a fawning face, his voice somewhat trembling. After receiving the storage bags, the burly man did not say another word, disappearing without a trace in a few breaths. Chapter 1102, Small Gains, the Jin Family's Dumbfounded. Chapter 1102, Chapter 388, Small Gains, the Jin Family's Dumbfounded. The burly man and the delicate young girl left Huji Ridge and entered the 9th Heavenly Gang Wind Layer directly. Hoo, the strong wind was fierce, and the howling ghost-like gang wind violently pressed and struck the two of them. Buzz! Beneath the burly man's feet, a star disk appeared, flowing with dazzling starlight, enveloping him and the young girl within. Subsequently, the man's bones crackled, and his face and stature changed instantly, transforming into a handsome and elegant young man with a tall and slender figure. This young man was naturally Lu Changsheng. The delicate young girl beside him was a disguise transformed by the Thousand Faces puppet fox. Initially, when Lu Changsheng planned to make a move on the Jin family, he had prepared a comprehensive plan. Disguising as a heretic cultivator wanted by the Huan Yin sect and the Heavenly Sword sect. Thus, for the move on the ancestor of the Jin family, just as previously planned, he disguised himself as two heretic cultivators. Unfortunately, I haven't yet refined the Tianyuan Supreme King Lotus into a void treasure, otherwise, through the effect of coordinating all techniques with the Yin-Yang Creation Classic, transforming cultivation and magical power into the corresponding demonic cultivation techniques would have been more realistic. However, having the third-rank demonic evil talisman will do for now. It's just a few Foundation establishment cultivators, they likely won't detect any flaws. Lu Changsheng let his mana flow, dispersing the remaining demonic evil qi around his body. After checking to make sure there were no problems, he cleaned up his gains in the 9th Heavenly Gang Wind Layer, clearing any suspicious items from the storage ring of the ancestor of the Jin family. At the same time, he checked the rewards provided by the Hu family to ensure there were no tricks involved. Huji Ridge, outside the mountain gate. The monk of the Jin family watched Lu Changsheng and the Thousand Faces puppet fox leave before they dared to move. If not for the blood-muddied corpse of their own ancestor right before their eyes, they'd think it was just an illusion. Go, retreat quickly. A Foundation establishment cultivator of the Jin family immediately transmitted his voice, instructing everyone to quickly flee from Huji Ridge. With the ancestor dead, they were utterly no match for the cultivators of the Hu family. Moreover, with such occurrences, they fear encountering any further mishaps. Want to leave? It's not that simple. Do you think you can come and go from Hu family as you please? A Foundation establishment cultivator of the Hu family saw this and immediately shouted loudly. Now that the Jin family ancestor was dead, they naturally had no fear of the Jin family cultivators outside. Even if they could not keep the two Foundation establishment cultivators of the Jin family, they could still kill many of the Jin family's late-stage energy refining cultivators. For any family, those in the late stage of energy refinement form a core force. Hurry up, well, cover the rear. The two Foundation establishment cultivators of the Jin family exchanged glances, ordering the other energy refining cultivators to flee quickly. But earlier, they had all passed their storage bags to the Thousand Faces puppet fox. Without a spirit boat or flying artifact, they could only use the wind control skill to escape, which was slow. Meanwhile, Golden Dragon Ridge, Jin family ancestral hall. Bang! The old guardian of the ancestral hall heard a crisp sound inside the hall, and suddenly got a shock. Apart from a few from the direct lineage core, only Foundation establishment cultivators were qualified to possess a life-bound plaque. This sound was the sound of a life-bound plaque shattering, indicating a core member of the family had encountered an accident. He quickly walked into the hall. In the quiet hall, the lights were bright. The old man saw the shattered jade plaque at the top of the high platform, and as if struck by lightning, his voice trembling loudly said, "This is impossible." This jade plaque was the life-bound plaque of their ancestor of the Jin family. Their ancestor of the Jin family was a true pill master, a highly respected figure. How could he suddenly perish? No, this is impossible, absolutely impossible. With a crazed expression, the old man stared in disbelief at the life-bound plaque in front of him and then stepped forward to hold the jade plaque. The warm jade plaque was now cold and shattered, just like his heart. He knew, his own ancestor truly had fallen. The ancestor only went to Wuxia Ridge. How could an accident happen? With cloudy, tear-filled eyes, the old man muttered. He didn't think much, and hurriedly notified the Patriarch and the Great Elder. Now that the ancestor had fallen, showing that something had happened at Wuxia Ridge, the family must urgently discuss countermeasures. Great Elder, it's bad. Jin Zan saw the Patriarch of the Jin family arriving with an anxious expression. His face darkened, and he spoke, "During major events, one needs to stay calm. What happened?" "Great Elder, the ancestor, he has fallen." The Patriarch of the Jin family said with profound sorrow and panic. "What?" Jin Zan, hearing this, was violently shocked. Then his eyes shot forth two chilling beams, looking at the Patriarch of the Jin family incredulously and said, "What did you say?" "Great Elder, the ancestor has fallen," the Patriarch of the Jin family, with red eyes, said. He, too, was in disbelief when hearing this news, and rushed to the ancestral hall to verify. After confirming the shattering of their ancestor's soul plate, he dared to report to Jin Zan, who was in closed-door cultivation. After all, the Great Elder had just recovered from injuries and was focusing on cultivation. If he heard this news, it was feared that it would agitate his blood and affect his cultivation. How could this happen? How could the ancestor fall? What is going on? Jin Zan stared deathly at the Patriarch of the Jin family, his eyes red, his presence intimidating as he spoke. The Patriarch of the Jin family, under the pressure of Jin Zan's false core, felt as if a mountain was pressing down on him, making it hard to breathe, and said with a bitter face, "We don't know either. Not long ago, when the young master of Hu family was making the Foundation establishment, the ancestor took Wuxia Ridge. Hu family is just a Foundation establishment family. Their ancestor was once defeated by me. How could he kill our ancestor? It's absolutely impossible for the ancestor to die at Wuxia Ridge." Jin Zan didn't let the Patriarch of Jin family finish and directly spoke. Though the Hu family is an established Foundation establishment family with some secret techniques, they definitely do not have the means to kill a false core immortal. Chapter 1103, A Small Gain, the Jin Family's Dumbfoundedness. Chapter 1103, Chapter 388, A Small Gain, the Jin Family's Dumbfoundedness. Furthermore, our family patriarch had broken through to the false core stage 100 years ago, and his life-bound spiritual artifact had long since been promoted to a magic treasure. Having a magic treasure makes a true pill master with a false core far more powerful than those without one. Therefore, there is no way for the Hu family to have the ability to kill our family patriarch. I will go to Wuxia Ridge now and see what's going on. Jin Zan did not continue to ponder, he immediately spoke up, preparing to investigate the truth. The Great Elder must not go, now that an accident has befallen the Patriarch. If there is any danger at Wuxia Ridge, the Patriarch of the Jin family hurriedly said. His own Patriarch had inexplicably perished abroad. Jin Zan, the false core Patriarch, must absolutely not encounter any mishaps. If Jin Zan were to have an accident as well, without a true pill master with a false core in command, their Jin family would thoroughly start to decline. Upon hearing this, Jin Zan's heart suddenly trembled. He used to act overbearingly in the past, and a large reason was that he had the support of the ancestor of the Jin family. Now that the ancestor had fallen, and he himself had become the family patriarch, the sole mainstay, his actions could no longer be as reckless as before. Otherwise, if he encountered any accident, the entire Jin family would collapse like a house of cards. Fine, send someone immediately to investigate. After a long silence, Jin Zan said heavily. A nameless panic rose in his heart. Ninth Heavenly Gang Wind Layer. Lu Changxing stood firm atop the starlight plate, having sorted through the storage ring of the ancestor of the Jin family, the storage bag of the monk of the Jin family, as well as the rewards from the Hu family's cultivator. The haul this time cannot be said to be very substantial. Aside from his false core, life-bound magic treasure, only a small clock, an exotic treasure sensitive to divine sense, was valuable. The total value of the magic artifacts, spirit stones, and heavenly and earthly treasures inside the storage ring was not high, amounting to roughly 34,000 spirit stones. However, the combined total of the other Jin family monk storage bags was not bad, worth about 56,000 spirit stones. As for the Hu family's reward, Lu Changxing roughly estimated it to be also around 56,000 spirit stones. No wonder so many cultivators, those at the foundation establishment and even core formation stages, would go on to become robber cultivators, heretic cultivators. The money really does come quickly, Lu Changxing remarked out loud. This amount of spirit stones was not much. But from the time he left home to resolving the battle, it hadn't even been a day. This efficiency of money-making simply outdoes being a talisman master, alchemist, or array master. Sometimes it's better to be a heretic cultivator, acting without concerns, killing without the need for reason. Unlike me on a regular day, as the family patriarch, with hundreds of liabilities in the family, everything I do has to be considered carefully, looking before and after. Lu Changxing shook his head, knowing that such activities could not see the light of day, and he should avoid them as much as possible. Otherwise, it's inevitable to have wet shoes if one often walks beside the river. After destroying and clearing all the suspicious items in the storage bag, Lu Changxing did not continue to linger, and quietly returned to Bai Lake Mountain. Throughout the trip, he was extremely cautious and was not worried about being traced back to him. But an idea surged in Lu Changxing's heart. With such an incident having occurred, the Jin family and the Hu family will definitely report it to the Qingyun Sect's Enforcement Hall. And the master of the Enforcement Hall is Kaiyun True Immortal, who has a friendship with him akin to Guan and Bao. If the other party investigates and it leads to him, would he cover up for him? After Lu Changxing quietly returned to Bai Lake Mountain, he acted as if nothing had happened. Meanwhile, at the same time, in Golden Dragon Ridge, the Jin family monks who went to Huji Ridge had also returned to the family. Had it not been for the Jin family's timely deployment of someone to check the situation, this time, the Jin family could have nearly been wiped out. Nonetheless, even so, 2 foundation establishment cultivators of the Jin family were seriously injured, and more than half of the 20 or so cultivators in the late stage of energy refinement died. This loss was nothing short of tragic. Considering the death of the ancestor of the Jin family, this trip could be said to have severely damaged the vitality of the Jin family. With no several decades, they would not be able to recover at all. You're saying the murderer is the wanted heretic cultivator, the Huan Yin sex traitor Hua Zi, and an unnamed body cultivator? With a gloomy face, Jin Zan looked at the 2 foundation establishment cultivators in front of him and asked hoarsely. Yes, Great Elder. The 2 foundation establishment cultivators responded with a bitter expression and hoarse voices, recounting the events that took place. To be killed with just one punch? How is that possible? Upon hearing this, Jin Zan's eyes bulged, his face filled with horror, disbelieving. He had already come to terms with the reality of his patriarch being killed. But now, to learn that his own patriarch was killed with a single punch, without any chance to fight back, he couldn't believe it. It must have been Hua Zi from Huan Yin's sect who used a charm illusion technique on the patriarch, disrupting and affecting his mental spirit, which allowed the body cultivator to take advantage of the gap to strike and kill the patriarch with a single punch. One foundation establishment cultivator offered his explanation. As a foundation establishment cultivator, he could barely discern some rationale. The fact that their patriarch did not use his magic treasure when facing the burly man's aggression indicated he was distracted. And the Huan Yin sect's cultivation techniques specialize in bewitching techniques and illusion techniques, which are hard to guard against. So he guessed that their patriarch might have been unsuspectingly caught off guard. Why would these two people target the patriarch? Our Jin family has never offended them, and we've never had any dealings with Huan Yin's sect. The patriarch of the Jin family said with clenched fists, his eyes red, his face full of stifled injustice. We don't know either, the two of them appeared suddenly. At the time, Ming asked them why they killed the patriarch, and that heretic cultivator said, the patriarch's gaze made him uncomfortable, the two Foundation establishment cultivators said with a lifeless look, somewhat dazedly. Even after so much time passing, even after going through a life and death escape, recalling that situation, the images, it still felt like a dream, with a sense of unreal absurdity. The gaze displeased him. Jin Zan's face turned dark and ugly, veins throbbing on his forehead. His hands were clasped tightly together, and due to the force, his slightly sharp nails pierced deeply into the palm, causing bouts of piercing pain. Chapter 1104, A Small Gain, The Jin Family's Dumbfoundedness. Chapter 1104, Chapter 388, A Small Gain, The Jin Family's Dumbfoundedness. Displeased by a glance, thus a punch took the life of the family patriarch. What a ridiculous and laughable reason. Yet, from the absurdity, he sensed a hint of reality, the cruelty of the cultivation world. Perhaps, to the other party, killing the family patriarch was as mundane as himself routinely killing a few energy-refining cultivators or Foundation establishment cultivators. Not reaching core formation, forever ants, Jin Zan's face betrayed a deep sense of fear and powerlessness. Indeed, becoming a false core immortal was like stepping into the threshold of the high ranks, becoming a notable figure. Yet, viewed through the lens of the entire cultivation world, in the eyes of a true nascent soul immortal, a false core was just an insignificant character, not even worthy of the title nascent soul immortal. The slightest carelessness could lead to being killed, with both body and Dao perishing. The death of the ancestor of the Jin family sent shivers down Jin Zan's spine, dousing the flames of his ambition to become a false core immortal. He began to fear the cultivation world more, no longer merely focused on his own territory. Good thing it wasn't my Jin family that provoked those two individuals. At this moment, Jin Zan actually felt a sense of relief. Relieved that it wasn't his family that had provoked these two heretic cultivators. Otherwise, attracting the attention of such heretic cultivators meant complete doom for his family. Great Elder, these two are wanted robber cultivators, should we report to the Qinyan sect? At this time, Jin Zan, the patriarch of the Jin family, looked towards Jin Zan while speaking with a bitter tone. The Qinyan sect had regulations. Affiliated families who encounter demon cultivators, robber cultivators, or fugitives must report immediately. But these two heretic cultivators were too domineering. He couldn't help but fear. If he reported to the Qinyan sect and the cultivators found out, would they trouble his own family? Jin Zan's heart trembled violently, and it took him a long time to finally speak. Report. They dared not offend these two heretic cultivators, nor dare they offend the Qinyan sect. If they didn't proactively report and later the Qinyan sect laid blame, as the family patriarch, he couldn't escape responsibility. Furthermore, these two heretic cultivators had been wanted for decades. As long as it wasn't the Qinyan sect who actually found the pair and chased them, only to have them escape, it shouldn't bring trouble to his family. Several days later, news of the Jin family ancestor's death spread rapidly throughout the entire Qinyan region, like wildfire scorching the plains. This news was shocking, like a boulder smashing into a still lake, creating great ripples. A false core immortal was a revered being to most cultivators and family forces. But now, one of the 6 false core families of the Qinyan region, the Jinlong Ridge Jin family's false core patriarch, had been slain by a heretic cultivator in one fell swoop. Many family patriarchs were shaken upon hearing this news, and panic ensued. They warned their kin to stay indoors during this troubled time, waiting for the storm to pass. Meanwhile, families holding grudges against the Jinlong Ridge took delight in clapping their hands in approval. They even regretted that Jin Zan had not been killed alongside. Not long after, Lu Changxing heard of this from his wife, Lu Miaoyun. Such matters had to be reported to the Qingyun sect. Moreover, on that day, many cultivators from the Hu family witnessed the event. The commotion was significant, making it impossible to keep completely hidden. However, seeing how unified the rumors were, blaming the heretic cultivators for the deed, Lu Changxing nodded slightly. He knew his actions had been perfect. Everyone pointed to the two wanted heretic cultivators for the killing, none suspecting his family. Husband, you should also be more careful when you go out. In a tender voice, Lu Miaoyun spoke to Lu Changxing. She knew that her husband went out from time to time. Now, hearing this news, she couldn't help but worry. Hee, Yuner, don't worry. Seeing the concern in his wife's eyes, Lu Changxing chuckled, pulled her into his embrace, and whispered in her delicate ear, "Let me tell you a secret." He was not one to keep secrets, especially from his wife. And he was keen to share some matters with her. Lu Miaoyun was startled upon hearing this. Then her eyes widened in astonishment as she stared at her husband. She had already learned from Lu Miaohuan that her husband was capable of slaying a false core immortal. But she never imagined that the Jin family patriarch had been killed by her husband. After all, according to the rumors, it was a blow that resulted in instant death. The Jin family's two false core immortals, if allowed to continue growing, would surely move against our family. And since I plan to journey out soon, I thought to take out one false core immortal of the Jin family in advance to avoid bringing trouble to our family. Lu Changxing smiled as he spoke while looking at his wife's expression. Regarding the family's spiritual vein and the preparations for assault on core formation, he could hide it from others, but definitely not from his wife at home. And on this matter, he had no intention of concealing it. Emichim. Lu Miaoyun understood the reasoning, nodded slightly, and asked with concern, "Where does my husband plan to go?" "To the Myriad Beasts mountain range. Our family's spirit vein is somewhat insufficient, and in a few years, I plan to make a push for core formation, so I intend to search the Myriad Beasts mountain range for some spirit vein origins," Lu Changxing spoke frankly. He was planning to journey with Ling Zixiao to the Myriad Beasts mountain range after a while. Husband is going to attempt core formation. Lu Miaoyun's mouth dropped open, her beautiful eyes darting around. Even the news of the Jin family patriarch's death at the hands of her husband was less surprising. After all, core formation stage, the legendary nascent soul immortals. Could it be that her husband had already become so powerful? Lu Miaoyun gazed at Lu Changxing, lost in thought. Once I finish dealing with the spiritual vein, should be ready to attempt core formation. Lu Changxing, seeing his wife's eyes filled with admiration and affection, pinched her cheek and nodded gently in affirmation. But doesn't making a push for core formation require a third-order spirit vein? I'm afraid it won't be easy for my husband to upgrade our family's spirit vein to third order, will it? Lu Miaoyun spoke up, voicing her concerns, "And I've heard that the Myriad Beasts mountain range is extremely dangerous. I have a secret technique. Without a third order, advancing our home spirit vein to a top-tier second rank should suffice. So, this trip won't be too dangerous," Lu Changxing said with a smile, then went on to inform Ling Zixiao, Lu Miaoge, and the others. Asking what preparations needed to be made in anticipation, he would journey with Ling Zixiao when the time came. After all, capturing the spiritual vein origin from the Myriad Beasts mountain range was set to take quite some time. Chapter 1105, Thunder Fire Mysterious Lotus, Crazy Harvest. Chapter 1105, Chapter 389, Thunder Fire Mysterious Lotus, Crazy Harvest. Lu Changxing, about to head to the Myriad Beasts mountain range, made arrangements for all the family affairs in advance. There was no need for him to worry about by Lake Mountain, where his son Lu Pingan held fort at White Tiger Mountain. But someone still needed to stay at Flower Fruit Mountain to look after it. After all, with so many fruit trees on Flower Fruit Mountain, it would be a great loss if robber cultivators, heretic cultivators, or any hostile forces were to destroy them all. He had already thought it through before and decided to station his son Lu Qingxian at Flower Fruit Mountain. Lu Changxing found his son Lu Qingxian and asked, "Qingxian, is your realm stable now?" "Father, my cultivation level has been consolidated. I wanted to notify you earlier, but you were in closed-door cultivation, Lu Qingxian replied respectfully. Good, this is a gift I've prepared for you, known as the Divine Power Fruit. Upon consumption, you'll gain sudden enlightenment of a divine skill that suits you. Lu Changxing nodded and produced a fruit in his hand, resembling golden glass, covered in 7 colored Dao patterns. He had intended to give this divine power fruit to Lu Qingxian for quite some time. However, due to his dual cultivation matter with Yun Wanshang, he had not been home recently. Divine power fruit? Consuming it can lead to sudden enlightenment of a divine skill. Lu Qingxian exclaimed with a shock in his heart. Divine skills could only be cultivated by nascent soul immortals. Many false core immortals might not even be able to master a divine skill. Could his father actually be giving him such a precious spirit fruit as a gift? He felt somewhat overwhelmed at the moment. Go ahead and consume it. Let's see what divine skill you will come to understand, Lu Changxing said with a smile. The divine skill gained from consuming the divine power fruit was related to the cultivation method, akin to an extension of the technique. Therefore, Lu Changxing also didn't know what divine skill Lu Qingxian would perceive. It could be a lethal divine skill, a defensive divine skill, an escape technique, or an augmenting divine skill. Thank you, Father. Lu Qingxian swallowed his saliva, bowed politely, and carefully took the golden fruit. He then sat cross-legged, seriously consuming the fruit in his hand. The fruit melted upon entering his mouth, turning into a light golden juice, flowing into his belly. After a moment, Lu Qingxuan's forehead gleamed with a golden luster, as if the essence of the great Tao circulated within, and the Thunder Fire 9 Arts cultivation method began to operate automatically. Dark red flames emanated from his body, accompanied by strands of lightning arcs, raging violently, intensely fierce and powerful. At this instant, Lu Qingxian entered a mysterious state. The cultivation method operated over and over again, with lightning and fire rising and spreading all over his body. This Thunder Fire 9 Arts is quite good, it's a pity it's just a side door level skill. Otherwise, this thunder and fire synergistic technique would be more suitable for the dragon roar physique than the vermilion bird sky scorching art, Lu Changxing mused as he looked at the technique. His son Lu Lingxiao practiced the vermilion bird sky scorching art. But in his view, this domineering thunder and fire synergistic technique would be more suitable for Lu Lingxiao. Just like that, time passed bit by bit. 3 days later, Lu Qingxian abruptly opened his eyes, his pupils filled with thunder flames, radiating brilliant and blazing light. Father. Lu Qingxian, looking at his father before him, showed a face full of joy. Divine skill. He had actually comprehended a divine skill. Although it was only a pseudo-divine ability, it was still a divine skill. What divine skill have you realized? Lu Changxing asked with a smile. Father, the divine skill I've comprehended is named Thunder Fire Mysterious Lotus, Lu Qingxian reported respectfully. Thunder Fire Mysterious Lotus? Show it to me, Lu Changxing raised an eyebrow and said with a smile, wanting to see the effect and power of this pseudo-divine ability. Yes. Lu Qingxian took a deep breath, stretched out his hands, and the mana from his Qi ocean core surged tumultuously. Boom! A clap of thunder sounded in the void, and on his left hand, a terrifyingly violent purple lightning arc surged. Above his right hand, a fiercely intense and burning red flame rose and spread. Under Lu Changsheng's gaze, Lu Qingxian slowly brought together the thunder and fire. As soon as the thunder and flame touched, they instantly burst with terrifying energy, causing the void to slightly distort as if on the verge of exploding. However, Lu Qingxian continuously formed seals with his hands, causing the two wild and domineering energies to distinctly separate yet closely intertwine, slowly merging, constantly creating, and condensing into a palm-sized dark red lotus with roaming lightning arcs. Thunder Fire Mysterious Lotus. Lu Changxing examined the fire lotus before him, stroked his chin, and felt it was somewhat similar to his own Thunder Gang Dragon Flame. Pfft! He gently lifted his palm, and a clump of purple and red flame spread. Then he wrapped the dark red lotus in Lu Qingxuan's hands. It does indeed have a similar essence to my Thunder Gang Dragon Flame. The power is decent too, almost comparable to the full blow of a Foundation Establishment 8-level cultivator. It's just that the casting time is a bit slow and too obvious. Lu Changxing squinted his eyes, feeling the power of this pseudo-divine ability. Ah. Meanwhile, Lu Qingxian next to him was stunned. With a confused face, he looked at his father. What was going on? Shouldn't his divine skill have exploded out of control almost immediately? How could it be toyed with in his father's hand like a plaything? And what about his father's flames? Why did they look slightly similar to his own thunder fire mysterious lotus? Could it be that his father also consumed a divine power fruit? But shouldn't the divine skill realized from the divine power fruit be based on the practice cultivation method? Full of confusion, Lu Qingxian stood perplexed. Not bad, comparable to the full blow of a Foundation Establishment 7th or 8th level cultivator, enough to deal with some Foundation Establishment pushovers. How much mana did you just consume? Lu Changxing looked at his son and asked. His son had just broken through to Foundation Establishment, and being able to wield such power with a divine skill was quite acceptable.